Okay. That a little bit late. Uh-huh. I got distracted picking a lock. That's why I'm late. All right. Or rather, got distracted trying to pick a lock because let's not pretend like I succeeded. Because I did not. I did not succeed in picking the lock. So yeah, that was that. Okay, let's take a listen to the audio a little bit. Sounds fine. Let's take the music down a little bit. Yep. Okay. Alright, let's go ahead and load up. So we finished step 3 last time. And it was honestly quite fun. Lovely, had a great time. So, it's time to start step 4. Now step 4, just like the previous ones, lets you start here, right? Feelings for Cove, direct, love, perfect, right? Alright, so now we can modify Cove's appearance and personality, right? Now I'm not going to touch the personality much, but I will change a little bit of the appearance. For one, short hair Cobe. No, I'm sorry, that short hair Cobe does not work for me. So I'm gonna go with 4. Glasses 1, glasses 2, and 3. 3. Earrings. Oh, okay. Okay. Let's go with 3. There we go. Tattoos. Interesting. 1 or 2? Tough to say. I like 1 better. Body type slim or buff. Well, he is a jock, so he's gonna be a little buff. A shirt? Absolutely not. Maybe. Maybe number 2. Number 3 is fun. Number 4 is okay. Let's go with number 2. Pants. Jeans. Okay. Let's go number 3 here. Red wrist. Oh, wow. Can't have the regular wrist thingy that from before, I don't think. Let's go with this. $2 for the necklace. have one. Carrot. Oh. Nope. 2. Okay. Looks good. Perfect. Sunglasses. That'll do. Acceptable. This shall be Kobe. Studious? No. He was not studious. He was sporty. But if I, huh? This happened naturally. I didn't change this, which means I'm gonna give it a mixed. Which initiative level would you like Kobe to have for step 4? Let's go for high initiative. And so, your days growing up in Sunset Bird came to an end. In the years that passed since graduation, you'd moved out of your childhood home and made your own way in the world. You lived alone, lived with a pet, lived with pets, with Cove and fish. Excuse me, alone, really? Lived with Cove, his fish, and the pet you picked. There we go. And you worked at a fine company, had a business of your own, co-owned with Cove, multiple ways of earning income, still focus on pursuing your education. Let's go with focus on pursuing education still. Your family members went through the same kinds of leaps into independence. Liz and Lee both eventually earned degrees and started fantastic careers in new towns. But your mom's and Cove's father still lived in the same street, and they had, as they had for all those years before. It was comforting to you that there were some things that remained in the old neighborhood. And despite the ever-changing reality of your adult life, your friends were still your friends. Though, of course, things weren't exactly the same for them either. Very recently, Terry publicly came out as a man and switched to the spelling of his name to use a Y instead of an I. Oh, I did not know that. Cool. He also confessed his love for Miranda, which she excitedly reciprocated. They moved in together recently in the city out past Sunset Bird. Okay, cool. Derek was as busy as always, but doing well. He always made an effort to keep in touch, and you even saw each other in person occasionally. One person who did disappear into the shuffle of memories inside your mind was Baxter. After his vacation in Sunset Bird one year, he was just gone. That was a loss, you felt. He had become someone you'd considered a friend during those days. And then there's what became of the sad little boy you grew up with, Kobe Holden. He was, of course, still the man you loved and wanted to spend your life with. But you hadn't officially gotten married just yet, and you'd gotten married at this point. He was your husband. If I click this, do I skip this, the wedding DLC? The past year was certainly busy. Being wedded to a person who meant more than everything to you was an incredible gift. You both kept your last names. You took the Holden last name. Cope took the McLaren last name. Combo. Tough. I mean, do we really need the Holden name? Like, sure, Cope Holden from that one book, The Catcher in the Rye, I think. But McLaren is a better name. but I like Mr. Holden. You both kept your names. Cove and you wore rings to signify your relationship. Cove wore an engagement ring to signify your relationship. You wore an engagement ring. Both of you wore rings. There we go. And the ring Cove wore looked like... Oh! Oh, I did not fucking know this existed. For Cove, I figure he would prefer something simple. Ah, okay. Silver, platinum. Platinum. So it doesn't actually say that this is for Cove. There we go. Oh! Yeah, no, this is Cove's. I forgot. Okay, so if this is Cove's... Silver, done. It truly thrived in his continued efforts of cultivating loving and supportive relationships with his family and friends. You couldn't say his personality had changed exactly. Instead, it became more refined. Cove was a warm, inviting, considerate man who took the lessons he'd learned over the years to treat the people around him with patience and understanding. When Cove eventually developed the picture of the future he wanted to have as an adult, you could see where he was coming from based on his past interests. Cove got a 2-year degree. After that, he began working full-time at Orca, helping educate the public on ocean conservation and participating in shore restoration efforts. Okay. As an adult, Cove was also able to recognize and have diagnosed that he wasn't the autism spectrum. No shit, really? Really, Cove? Yeah, okay, fair enough. He just realized it. That's fine, that's fine. You know. I thought he knew. I thought he knew. I thought he was already informed about that one. Cool, cool. It was something that hadn't been noticed by his doctors as a child, but he was still the same Cove he always was to you, and was just glad to understand himself better. It thrilled you to see how happy and successful he had grown up to be. On the whole, life continued its steady beat forward, and you all went with it down the path you chose. It is strange and wonderful. But no matter how old you got, how far you roamed, or how long you were away, the home you had in Sunset Bird still called you back eventually. The car rumbled down the highway. It had started to tune out when a truck in the left lane loudly zoomed past. Your driver didn't remark on it, just like nothing else this trip. You went back to staring at the window, letting the scenery pass you by. You did appreciate the spacious backseat of your ride. You hadn't known exactly when you would be coming in, so you had decided to use a ride app rather than ask your moms to pick you up. It had turned out to be a convenient choice. You looked forward to surprising your parents at the door. You smiled at the thought of their faces lighting up. Luckily, this hadn't been that big of a trip for you. You lived close enough that the travel hadn't turned into a big production. However, that didn't make the occasion mundane. For once, your moms had decided to have a modest celebration dinner for their anniversary. Unlike when you were growing up, and they preferred not to make a big deal out of it, this year they were comfortable having a party. As time went on, they had found being the center of attention easier to handle. You were happy to see it. With this going on, there was no way that either you or Liz would miss your mom's anniversary. Both of you made plans to come back home for it. You didn't hear from Liz about her exact schedule, but you hadn't shared yours either. It reminded you of when you were kids and both knew to show up for dinner, but didn't keep each other in the loop for each other's pre-dinner plans. This was the same concept after all. Some things stayed the same, and yet it was different. It was definitely different from when you would have. Some things stayed the same, and yet it was definitely different from when you would see your sister every day and knew sort of what she was doing. Anyways, from osmosis, today you had no idea. Things were always changing. You mused on how at times it was hard to believe you didn't live with your parents anymore, and yet you also couldn't imagine going back and living as a kid under their rules. The rest of the drive flew by. Your silent driver provided a smooth ride. No sharp turns or hard stops jostled you out of your own head. Your thoughts turned from introspective to observant. The landscape passing by became more and more familiar. You frequently recognized the landmarks that dotted the area. A grin came to your face as you passed the now entering sign for a sunset bird. Excitement built within you. You're really here. We're doing this. Your driver turned off on a street, and you realized that their map program was taking you to the way home that Ma preferred. You usually would have used the other side street to pass by the beach. In no time at all, the car had gone through the whole of the town and pulled in front of your mom's condo. The car slowed to a stop and parked. With the buzz of the highway gone, you realized that you could hear the familiar sound of waves. The air smelled like salt and a rush of childhood memories flooded back. You started to gather your things and humming to yourself once more about how happy your moms would be to see you. After that, you'd notify everyone else that you'd made the trip safely. You pulled over your suitcase from the other seat and yanked at your bag from down near your feet. Tap tap. You're startled at the sudden sound of tapping on a glass. It caused you to pause. Did you really hear what you thought you did? You weren't entirely sure because you soon heard something else. The window on the opposite side of the car rolling down. It confused you until you put it together. That despite the driver's silence, you weren't actually alone in the car. The driver must have pressed the button. Someone had to be there. You turned your head to face the new open window. There he was, leaning his arms across the window, your husband Cove Holden. He beamed at you with one of his precious open smiles. Good grief, look at that! He grew up good.
Corey!
Hey, Corey. What a surprise this is. I didn't expect to see you in this neighborhood. That fucking smile. He was joking, of course. Seeing your expression, he decided to push it further. It's not like I've been waiting for you out here all morning or anything. Cove, I've been the one waiting to see you. I started to keep you waiting. You survived. You screamed excitedly. You stared stunned. You survived! Cove burst out laughing at your delivery. It wasn't easy. He then gripped the top of the car door and pushed half of his torso through the opening. That was enough to make the driver break their silence with a sharp "Hey!" Cove did not seem to notice and continued climbing in through the window. He pushed one hand down onto the middle seat to prop his dangling body up. He used his other hand to caress your cheek as he leaned in as close as he could. I miss you. You scooched across the seat and kissed him on the lips. You leaned over and kissed him on the forehead, covered his hand, flicked his nose. Hugged him without knocking him down, you grinned. Let's kiss him. He enthusiastically reciprocated. The arm holding him wobbled at your touch. You could feel him smile under your smooch. He was clearly struggling to avoid falling down into the cushion. You pulled back just a little to get a better view of his face. I miss you too. Now get out of the window, you crazy person. I really should have expected this. You and your windows. Perfect callback. I promise this was unplanned. I know, it still doesn't make a difference. Cove's smile turned awkward as his arm started to bend lower, causing his body to slide downward with him. He turned his head to the driver. Sorry, I'm always causing trouble in this neighborhood. Cove shifted around some more and screamed back the way he came. After he had successfully pushed up the window and landed on the pavement with a thumb, you opened your car door. You threaded your arms through the various straps of your bags and climbed out. Cove took a few long strides around the back of the car and quickly met you out on your side. Cove stood in front of you and it struck you that the two of you were back in Sunset Bird, reunited once again on this street. You jumped into his arms, friendly punch, ruffled his hair, high five, fist bump, jump into the arms. And you were still holding your bags, of course. It was a little difficult to launch yourself at Cove with all your luggage in tow, but you pushed through. Cove let out a little oath as he caught you and a bag swung around to cover him in the back. Both of you had to maneuver around the assorted cases weighing you down. Cove snorted as your baggage once again hit his side. When you were situated, he leaned back on the balls of his feet and fully lifted you off the ground. His goofy grin let you know just how much he was enjoying your enthusiastic embrace. With how small you were, it was easy for him to swing you around. You enjoyed him steadily holding you up. With one last swing, he let you back down. You really were ecstatic to be around him again, and absolutely thrilled that it was here in this town where you were together. Even if it had only been a short time since you had seen him off, you had still missed Cove greatly. It somehow felt a lot longer. Given your different schedules and travel availabilities, it had worked out better for Cove to head out to Sunset Bird first. He only arrived the evening before, however, and secured the hotel room. Until now, you'd never had to deal with that inconvenience of being in a tourist-heavy area. It was a fight to get a place to stay close by during the heat of the summer vacation season. I'm sorry. Your parents live there. Still, I'm pretty sure your rooms are still there and not rented. Whatever. Living without him at your place was strange. Cove was basically a part of you at this point. You were glad to feel whole again. Oh. You idly shifted your luggage when it struck you that you were short one. You got out in such a hurry it was left behind. You reached back into the car to pull it out. Cove stood aside as you made a dash for the door. You shouldered the small bag and felt relief that you would be able to brush your teeth tonight. Got everything this time? You stood up straight, everything truly gathered up and out of the car. You gave the bags one last glance and then nodded. Cove shut the door after you had moved out of the way. The two of you stepped off the street and to give the driver some room. Cove waved. Sorry again. The driver said nothing and drove off. With the road clear, you let your gaze drift across the neighborhood that you had known forever. It was such a small place to spend so many days. You were flooded with memories of going up and down this street during every stage of your life. Being a little kid, following your big sister to the playground, becoming a teen and staying out later, and growing into an adult who left their parents' house behind to be independent. You could feel the summer sun on your skin from all the times you headed out to the beach. You saw the same surroundings that you saw as a young adult when leaving home. Second. There we go. It was hard to quantify the amount of history you had here. And now you were back. Despite taking in the neighborhood again, you never lost awareness of Cove's presence. From the corner of your eye, seeing him there was a very familiar sight as well. So many of your memories included him. Your mind drifted from the neighborhood itself to the person who used to live there. You couldn't help the feeling of nostalgia. You still remembered his face, his voice, the scar on his arm from the days long gone. He had changed so much since you had first met him. Yet even with those changes, he was always recognizable. He was familiar like the sky was, and the way you knew the sea. Every day they may appear different, but they're still an inextricable part of life. It was a world with help from Mr. Holden and his ill-thought $20 bill that brought you together to begin with, but the two of you had chosen each other. You had never let your interactions fade. You had decided to nurture your relationship into what it was, and you would continue to keep Cove close into all the rest of your adult years. He was the love of your life and your wonderful spouse. He was the one you wanted to keep spending year after year with, as you'd done for years before this. It would be impossible to imagine life without him. Cove noticed you staring at him after a while and smiled with his eyebrows rising in curiosity. He was very transparent in his question if there was something you wanted to say. You shook your head and returned him a soft expression. You'd let yourself get carried away in a tide of memories, but now it was time to focus on the present. No time like now. Let's go see my mom's. Cove nodded and then pointed at all your luggage bundled around your legs. Can I help with any of that? Yes, thank you. Can help with all of it. No, it's like carrying in all my groceries in one go. that was literally right there, you'd drop them. I'm tempted between 2 and 3. I'm not sure which. You can help with Alfred. Fine. I should have seen that coming. He held out his arms with a smirk and didn't protest as you loaded him up as your luggage carrier. You looked a little silly covered in your bags, but stood proud regardless. The bag situation resolved, the two of you strolled over to the McLean residence's door. You started to pat on your pockets, instinctively, only to realize that you no longer carried a key to the house. Your eyes scanned the entryway, a little lost, only to spy the doorbell. I'm sorry. You don't have a key to the house anymore? That's weird. Maybe it's just me. That feels weird to me. The thought of having to ring it felt super weird. As you press the inconveniently placed button on the side of the wall, you remember that no matter how much this place could always be a home to you, it wasn't where you lived. Being back here was like putting on a uniform after you quit the store where it came from. It had remained the same, but your circumstances had changed. You know what? I've recently taken up lockpicking. Super fun. Love it. However, were I in this situation where I somehow did not have a key to the place I was visiting, I would totally pick the lock. Or try to anyway. Cove shifted on his feet awkwardly, obviously also thrown about you being stuck out here, keyless. You heard muffled voices and shuffling sounds from inside. Your heartbeat sped up in anticipation. You know what? They could have also gone in through the window that Cove used to always go in through. That would have been funny. You heard muffled voices and shuffling around from inside. Your heartbeat sped up in anticipation. The door swung open and there was your mom's smiling face. She immediately brightened at seeing you standing there. Good grief, she's gotten a lot older. Well. Mom twisted her head back and gave a shout down the hall. Lani, guess who's here? There were more distant noises, no doubt Ma getting up from wherever she was to come see. Her high-spirited words rang out clearly. I hope it's one of my children. Mom snickered, still holding the door only half open to hide you for a little longer. Cove flushed as if suddenly realizing that he was going to be present for your mom's enthusiastically welcoming of you. He was going to be present for your mom's enthusiastic welcoming of you. You smiled to reassure him that he wasn't intruding. Ma finally reached the door and peered over Mom's shoulder. She also looks older. It is! Hello, Curry! She gave you a once-over, patting the tops of your shoulders and moving down the sides of your arms before she nodded in satisfaction that you were in one piece.
How sweet.
This is a wonderful surprise. Ma inclined her head to Cove next, not leaving him out either. Hello, sweetie. You count as one of my kids at this point anyway. I have double the surprise today.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He grinned at your parents and laughed. You missed their presence so much. Cove bashfully waved at them. He hadn't relaxed fully, but he had settled down at their welcome. Well, don't just stand out there. Come in. Your mom moved aside and held the door open for you, gesturing for you to enter. You stepped into the living room. It was comfortable and cool. Cove was a half step behind you. His eyes must have added, his eyes on the new painted your mom's must have added since the last time you were here. Things are mostly the same, but there were more decorations since you had seen the house last. Mom may have gotten the urge for some interior designing again. It struck you how odd it was to be the guest, only observing their choices for the little living space here, rather than a full-time occupant. Ma came up in front of you, excitement in her eyes. I'm so glad you're here.
That's fine.
You know, your mom and I would have been happy to pick you up, but you're self-sufficient and responsible, that's okay. What matters is that you arrived safely. Mom appeared at her side with a nod. Welcome back, kiddos. You appreciated that your parents respected you as an adult, even if Mom still called you kiddo. You figured long ago that you'd always be her kiddo no matter how grown you became. It was part of the whole parent-child deal with her. You hugged your mums. You took another step forward and pulled Mom and Ma into a great big hug, squeezing them tight. Their arms wrapped around you in turn, and you could feel their love for you in their embrace. I'm happy to be here. I miss you both. Great. Surprise. Deserved a little break. I wanted to surprise you. Aw, well, you succeeded. Your timing was lovely. It's always nice when I'm able to come by, Cope said. Your mom's giggled, pleased. So, how's it been? Have you been good? Getting enough excitement and all that? Speaking of exciting things, your anniversary dinner. Is everything all set for that?
No problem.
We're happy to help if there's something we can do. We've been plenty fine. It's been a little quiet, but that's not a bad thing. Mom placed her arm around Ma's shoulder and gave her a side hug.
Don't worry about
Don't
it.
worry about the party. We're just planning to eat at the Cypress. Nothing fancy. Which is kind of a funny thing to say about a pretty fancy country club. The biggest issue has just been making sure everyone could make it for the day. Speaking of which, Liz will be arriving tonight. We're planning on picking her up later. I guess Liz isn't as grown up as Corey. Mom snickered at her own joke and Ma lightly elbowed her with a barely hidden grin. Shush. Oop. As I was saying, we could drop you off wherever you're staying if you don't mind waiting for that. I'm sorry there's no space for you in the house. It's getting crowded in those old rooms since you and Liz moved out. I don't know where all this stuff keeps coming from. Amazon. That's where. Sure you don't, Pamela. It's okay. Cove already has a hotel room I'm gonna be staying in anyway. Cove sent you some pictures of the place when he arrived. Stylish and roomy. It seemed very nice. It was a room with a single king bed. Of course. It claimed that the bed was comfortable, so you had high hopes about that, though mostly you were looking forward to having him next to you as you slept. Once again. Your mom smiled, relieved. Kira's already here, isn't she? She directed her question at Cove. He bobbed his head a bit to go along with his reply. Yeah, I heard she made it. She's gonna be staying with Dad while she's in town.
Oh.
Have you gone over and said hello yet? Cove chuckled self-consciously, and this time he shook his head. You raised an eyebrow since you had figured he would have taken the chance while waiting for you. Not yet. I should go do that now. I just wanted Corey to be there too. He caught your eyes with an adoring smile. Mom laughed at that, no doubt thinking that Cope was sweet but ridiculous.
Oh, nice.
It's nice to know your priorities. Yeah. Cope awkwardly rubbed his arm and shifted on his feet, looking all too much like he did as a kid.
So?
Corey, do you want to go over to my house now? That's a good idea. We won't be leaving until late evening. Yeah, let's go for it. Cope perked back up, excited once more. We'll keep an eye on your things while you're out. There's no reason to be carrying all that around. You set down your bags in the living room, tucked into a corner where they wouldn't be in the way. Cove helped. Your moms waved the two of you off as you walked back to the entranceway. Thanks, see you soon. You waved back and opened the front door for Cove. With that, you were on your way to see Cove's family next. This trip put a special little pep in Cove's steps as you crossed the street to his dad's house together. Your spirits were equally high. Doing this, you felt like a teen again. You had known Cove's parents for a long time now. When it came to what you called his dad, you still stuck with the familiar classic Mr. Holden, Cove's dad, first name basis with Cliff. You'd been waiting for the right time to call him Dad. You felt that could be now. Yeah, of course, right? Mr. Holden, Cliff, is Dad, because Cove is... Anyway. Yeah, Cove... No, you know what? I was gonna say Cove is Daddy, but no, he's not. He's too subby to be the daddy. Yeah, I feel like in this playthrough, in this relationship, it's the other way around. And, And our character is the mommy. Anyway, right moment to call him dad. For his mom, you were still on first name basis with Kira. You call her Mom 3 in an unserious way. You've been waiting for the right time to call her mom. You've been giving this a ton of thought recently. The smile on your face wavered. There was probably no better time than now to test this out. Silently, you hoped that she would be okay with it. If not, that wouldn't change how much you considered her another mom in your heart. Cobb hopped up to the front door and didn't bother knocking. He twisted the knob and it swung open. With a grin, Cobb gave you a great, gratified thumbs up. You shook your head in disapproval, but you both knew that you hypocritically supported his behavior. Your dad is lucky we aren't criminals. You brushed your comment aside and went right into his home. His old home. Cliff was there, standing in his kitchen and babysitting a pan on the stove. His head turned at the sound of the footsteps and he's brightened instantly at the sight of you both. Cobb matches enthusiasm instantly. Good grief. Look at these two. Good fucking genes, these two. Especially the dad. He's getting older and he still looks like this. Holy shit. Goes taller too. Cool. If it was anyone else... Correction. Correction. There is a grammar mistake here. There's a grammar mistake in that first sentence. If it was anyone else, you would have thought he was lighting up with a childlike joy over seeing his dad again. Now, where in this sentence is the mistake? Can anyone spot it? Why, yes, chat. The mistake is in the verb to be in past. Because, well, yeah, it's past. It is an imaginary situation. And when we are talking about an imaginary situation, if he were anyone else, you use the form were rather than was or is. Certain. Yeah. Because you are not actually using the past form, you're using the subjunctive. The subjunctive for be is where for all people. If it were, if he were, if she were, if they were, if Cobb were, if the situation... Anyway, if it were anyone else, you would have thought he was lighting up with a childlike joy over seeing his dad again. But since you knew what Cobb was actually like as a kid, you were aware this level of happiness with Cliff was definitely not equivalent to any childhood feeling of his. Dad. Cobb. Cliff gracefully pushed what he was cooking to a different burner and flipped off the heat. He rushed over to you both. Cobb flew forward and met him halfway in a hug. Cobb squished his eyes shut and held his dad in a tight hug. Cliff soothingly rubbed his son's back. The more of an adult Cobb became, the more he turned into a big daddy's boy, it seemed. Oh my god. Yep. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna headcanon that in the bedroom, Cobb is, Cobb calls us mommy in the bedroom. And maybe outside of it too. I know, depends on how their sex life works. I missed you. I miss you too. It was sweet. And teasing aside, it was wonderful to see them And teasing aside, it was wonderful to see them at this place in their relationship after years of struggling to connect. When the hug broke, Cliff hooked an arm around his son's neck. He let out a deep laugh. I still can't believe you outgrew me. I really thought I had that on him after he graduated from high school, but then he had to keep going. Chuckling, he shook his fist in mock anger. Cobb ducked his head and laughed in kind. Sorry, Dad. Cobb's cheeks turned pink, and he averted his eyes. He was becoming bashful, so you knew he had more he wanted to say. Cove softly added,
That's
"But I was raised really well." Aww. That's sweet. It's adorable. He's such an adorable cinnamon roll. 1 second. There we go. Anyway. Okay. Okay. I moved around. But I was raised really well. His dad's expression instantly crumbled with emotion. He sniffed. Cove put an arm around him too and tucked him into a side hug. He observed their little reunion fondly, happy to let them enjoy their moment. They were a perfect pair of sentimentality. Cliff eventually turned his attention to you.
hey.
"Hi, Curry. Great to see you." He pulled away from Cove and approached you with a little wave. He was back to his cheery self. "Hi, Dad." "Dad, it's nice to see you." "I miss you, Dad." Let's start with here. And you hug him, of course. You went to him with your arms extended and he immediately pulled you into a big hug. It smelled like spices from the kitchen and the sunscreen he used to slather Cove in as a kid. Staying happily, you momentarily felt at home, but you noticed that his whole body was rigid. He hadn't noticed what you called him. Then a loud gasp escaped Cliff. You glanced over at Cove for his reaction. He grinned sweetly with misted eyes. "Dad? Of course, it's not a problem, right? Who else would you be?" Cliff placed his hand on your shoulders. The sudden weight of them jolted you away from your thoughts.
I'm so glad.
"That's absolutely okay. It's more than okay." Overwhelmed with emotion, his voice squeaked at first, but he barely noticed. He was beaming with joy. "I would love to be your dad." "You're the best dad I could ask for." "Okay, yes, but..." "I miss you, Dad." And you hugged him. Okay. Of course, not a problem.
I'm so glad.
It's more than okay. Overwhelmed with emotion, his voice squeaked at first, but he barely noticed. He was beaming with joy. "I would love to be your dad. You're the best dad I could ask for." Finally, calling you family is no longer a joke. Who knew you'd be getting a new kid out of the deal in the end? You teared up. Bashful, you looked away. "Shit. I wish I could pick two." "Alright, let's go with this one." Sniffling, your vision blurred as large drops welled in your eyes. Cove turned to you,
Are
concerned.
you okay?
"Are you okay?" "I'm just really, really happy." "It's alright, Corey. I think I know how you might be feeling now." You squirmed at him squinted at him through the remaining tears and noticed his eyes were misty too. "Thanks, Dad." Grinning, Cliff reached out and shook Cove's forearm. Cove didn't move, but he did watch him completely baffled. "Did you hear that, bud? I'm Dad now." Cove snorted, unable to stop himself from teasing his father just a little. "You already were a dad." "True, but now I get to instill my dad wisdom in more than just your noggin." Giddy, you couldn't be happier with your decision. You knew the two men in front of you were part of your important family. Cliff cleared his throat, pulling attention to himself. He crossed his arms. "But before we get too carried away, it's not a real reunion yet. Kira's still in the guest suit. I'll go get her." He eagerly bolted down the hall, and you could hear every step he took. It ended with a distinct knock. "Kira, they're here!" It was only seconds before there was the sound of a door being yanked open. The pounding of feet hitting the wood floor grew even louder this time.
My baby.
"My baby, so cute." Next to you, Cove let out a nervous laugh. His parents entered the living room, and Kira stretched her arms out wide when she spotted you both. Cove went to her easily. You went in for the hug too. You opened your arms. Raised your arms up to pass. Yeah, went in for the big hug too. She pulled you tightly into her arms with Cove. You're squished, but felt every bit of love Kira held in her heart for you both. Coop wrapped his free arm around her too. He rested his head on top of hers and let out a happy sigh. After a moment, Kira let go and pulled back to get a better look at your faces. She surveyed every inch of them and appeared satisfied. You're both looking well. That's wonderful. And just what I like to see.
Thanks.
Thanks. And hi, Mom. Thanks, Mom. You look great too, Mom. Welcome back, Mom. I missed you, Mom. You look great too, Mom. One day soon I'll let you in on weight. Both of her hands flew to her mouth, and the sun look in Kira's eyes quickly melted into affection. Slowly her hands lowered, revealing the biggest smile you'd ever seen on her face. You heard me, Mom? That's fine, isn't it? It's okay, Cory. I'd be the luckiest lady to have you as another beautiful baby. Thank you, Glad. I'm a grown-up, not a baby. That's great, you can never have too many moms. You teared up. Yep, let's go for that. Coop and his parents swirled and you shifted in your obscured vision. Coop reached over to wipe the tears away with a finger. Happy tears? You hummed in response and tried to steady your nerves. When you were better composed, responded the fondness in Kira's demeanor. So, you put your hands on your hips, your gaze sliding from one to the other. How have you both been doing since I last saw you? Any good stories? Kira gave a nod for Cliff to go first. Cheerfully, he waved a hand.
No worries.
Oh, same old, same old. Still got the shop, still got my friends and family, of course. And still the most exciting thing around here is seeing who will rent out that one free condo. Incredible. I always knew you were such a snore. They snickered and you couldn't help but peek at Cobb. He rolled his eyes, dramatically, drying out a few giggles from you. The whole time, there was still a happy smile fixed on his face.
Well,
For me, things have been good. I've gotten a lot of interesting assignments lately. Oh, I recently went to Seattle, and... Kira twirled the strand of her hair shyly, and her mouth curved into a grin. Whatever she was thinking about, it made her happy. Ah, okay. A new quote-unquote friend, huh? Things have still been going well with that guy from work, but it's a little early to bring him all the way out to California to meet the family. Hope crossed his arms. He and his dad nodded. It was clear she appreciated the acceptance from her two boys. Great, happy for you. Gets a seal of approval when he does come around. He silently nodded as well. 3 identical nods from across the board. Kira's grin grew ear to ear before she shook her head in amusement. So that's us. Do you have plans for your first day back? The only thing I have to do is pick up Liz later tonight before we head back to our hotel room.
Great.
Great, great. He suddenly looked over his shoulder, his eyebrows pushed together. I'm glad you're here, but I just remembered that I was in the middle of cooking something. Only a small cackle escaped you while you thought of the giant grin taking over your face. Meanwhile, Coop erupted into laughter that had his dad shaking his head. That's fine, Dad. Go salvage what you can. I think it'd be nice to explore the old neighborhood for a while anyway, since we've got the time. Cobb directed the last part to you as he spoke, hoping that you'd want to go with him. You nodded automatically. You were already looking forward to it. That's the perfect idea.
makes sense.
I think so too. You should go enjoy the day. I'll hang back here so I won't be a third wheel, and someone's gotta keep an eye on Cliff before he catches the whole kitchen on fire. Mom, you're not a third wheel. Hope stiffly stuck his arms against his side, like a little child. A small smirk tugged at Kira's mouth. She winked. You know what I mean? Have a good walk. Yeah, you can have a quickie in the beach if the pirates are there. Wait. I think that's wrong. I'll see you both later. Cheerily, Cliff waved before going back to his cooking. Ko smiled warmly.
Bye.
Okay, bye. We'll be back. Bye. Coop trailed behind you as you walked into the welcoming summer sun. He stopped, closing his eyes to stretch his arms in the warm rays. Satisfied, Cope gave you a bent smile and dropped down loud to the ground. You knew that this was your chance at a piggyback ride. Cope silently waited for your answer. Your mouth curved into a mischievous grin. You read my mind. Cope hummed in agreement while you climbed onto his back. You both had a secure grip. He stood up. The movement bounced you more than usual. Chuckling into Cope's hair, you were pleased to enjoy another afternoon of your favorite mode of transportation. Under your hand, you could feel the vibration of laughter in Cope's chest. Let's go. Naturally, you found yourself heading down the road towards the beach. Your spirits rose even higher as you strolled across the sand, heading for the shopping district. Arriving, you walked past tourists who were taking in the sights for the very first time. Being a local was a badge of honor you wore proudly. You casually walked past the shops. Over the years, some had closed down, but many of the stalls were still exactly the same as they were when you were little. Cope snapped his head as far as it could go to one side, so dramatically you couldn't have missed it. Something clearly caught his eye, but you couldn't see it.
Please?
There's a pretzel stand open today. Can we get one? When his gaze found you again, he wore the biggest smile. You chuckled. Yeah, we can. You need to ask for my permission. Does your heart want a pretzel? You need to ask for my permission. Yep, it does. For a moment, you both quietly laughed at that. You placed a hand over your own heart. Then I think you should follow it. You're gonna get that one that comes with the little frosting cup, aren't you? That's right. After that, you both happily made your way over, being pulled in faster by the delicious aroma of the stall. With that, you changed course to the pretzel stand for a snack break. Cope was very pleased by the morsel he picked up, and that was good to see. The sun arced across the sky as you went up and down the road as a pair. By the time you returned to the beach, day was beginning to fade into night. Cope kicked his shoes off, tossing them into the sand. He wanted to get his feet wet in the waves as fast as possible. You joined him. In seconds you had your feet free and your shoes abandoned in the sand. You kept going until you were ankle deep in the water. Cope sighed contentedly. You followed his line of sight at the setting sun, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink. It really feels like summer now. He wore a bent smile. And when he turned to you, the light illuminated like a halo behind him, and the sight took your breath away. In fact, it's hard to think of anything that feels more perfectly summer than moments exactly like this. Being here at sunset in Sunset Berg with you. I'm so glad we were able to come visit. I do like our living situation now, over just being neighbors, but still. Agreeing with Cove, you made an okay sign with one hand. You felt your heart flutter in your chest. You smiled quickly, stretched ear to ear. I'm happy too. Of course we would have ended up like this again, sooner or later. This is a wonderful day. Not so bad, I didn't say. Of course we would have ended up like this, sooner or later. You crossed your arms. Cope looked up from the sand, meeting your gaze with a bent smile. It's inevitable. Like Thanos. Cope murmured quietly, losing himself in his thoughts again. Shortly after, you saw his hand shoot down to the sand. He stood straight back up with a lopsided smile and got to work brushing the sand off his prize. You knew without a single word. Cope found a new shell for your collection. As you wandered down the beach, he followed at your side in comfortable silence. Your shadows stretched across the sand like they were leading the way. The only noise you could hear were the soft footfalls of your feet and the waves gently rocking into the shore. For a moment in time, you felt like there were only two of you in your own world. Eventually, the bubble popped. When you realized that your phone was going off. It was Ma, hoping that you were going to be back soon. Curious, Cope's eyes slid down to your phone. You let your hand fall back down to your side. You held the phone pressed against the palm of your hand. It's Ma. She wants to know when we'll be back. We'll be there. Cope scratched the back of his neck and shook his head. His mouth twitched like he just had a funny thought. Dang, parents. Always trying to make us come home before it gets too dark. Okay, that's fun. He laughed. There's no escape from curfew as long as we're in this neighborhood. Parents are such a pain. Sucks that we have to leave already and act like a little kid. There's no escape from curfew as long as we are in this neighborhood. It looks like we warped back into being little kids the moment we set foot at the entrance sign. Coop's nose crinkled in fake disgust, and you both burst into a fit of giggles. It'd be nice not to have to worry about bills again. Sometimes. After one last glance, you put your phone away again. Coop gave a small shrug. Ready? Yep. Let's go. Together, you left the beach, feeling the call of home pulling you forward. Both of you ran towards your mom's house, leaving the waves behind, but welcoming the beginning of summer. Cove and you run up from the beach. Sand flying from your steps. Cove made it to the road first, but you managed to catch up to him by the time you reached the house. It wasn't exactly a race, and yet it also wasn't not a competition. Both of you were laughing by the time you bumbled through your old front door together. Yep. You inhaled deeply and shouted loud enough to be heard anywhere in the house. We're here! Your moms are sitting in the living room. Their eyes sparkled as they locked on you and your light dusting of sand.
Hello.
Welcome home. Mom leaned away, eyebrows raised at your jubilant entrance. Ma sighed wistfully.
Aww.
That brings back memories. It chuckled shyly as he scratched the back of his head. I hope we're not too late. Nope, you're just in time, but you better start packing it up. Liz will be waiting. Ma nodded as she stood up from her seat. She lightly ran her fingers over her clothes to smooth out the wrinkles. It took you a second to remember where you had put your stuff. You needed to get it all in the car so you could get everything back to your hotel. Can I help? You shrugged and directed him to your bags. With Cove, your moms and yourself on the job, it only took one trip to the car to get everything. Cove firmly closed the trunk and you thanked everyone for the assistance. Of course, kiddo. Come along, my family. Let's get in the car. She gave Cove a special look to make it clear that meant him. Cove climbed into the backseat with a decidedly touched expression on his face. You got in on the other side. When everyone was situated and buckled, the engine was started and Ma pulled out onto the street. You couldn't help but feel amused to be stuck in the backseat with Cove. Your mom's driving you around. It really was like you were little kids again. Cove caught you staring at him and gave you a bent smile. He was probably in the same wavelength as you from the sheer mischief in it. There was some light chatting on the drive. No one brought up anything too deep, and it mostly became swapping jokey stories. The entire trip was marked by a heavy sense of anticipation. Everyone was ecstatic to see Liz and hear what she had been up to. When you neared the airport, Mom pulled out her phone to call Liz. Ma followed the sign to the correct pickup area and asked for you to shout if you saw your sister. Yeah, Liz, we're at Wing B. There's a blue sign that says North America.
Alright.
So how that we're right in front of the building with blue windows. She says that she's outside, right by a yellow truck. I see at least 3 yellow trucks. I think they're doing work at the airport. The back and forth continued, with Matt driving around in the wide, circular airport road, while Mom attempted to coordination between her and Liz's location. Aha! He leaned forward, peering out at the front of the car. A tall, poised silhouette pulled a pale, purple roll-along suitcase behind her. It was definitely Liz. She whipped to the car. Ma parked along the sidewalk next to her, and Mom put her phone away with a cheer. Mission accomplished, team! Ma excitedly reached over to grasp Mom's raised hand, thrilled that both of her kids were there. Hail Hydra. Hail Hydrate.
job.
That's right. Liz came closer and yanked open the back door beside her. She popped her head into the car, her smile ornery despite how tired she appeared. It must have been a long trip for her, yet her expression was that same familiar smirk that you had grown up with.
Hey.
Hello, children, I'm back. Look at that smile. Yep, that's Liz. Miss you, you laughed, Liz. Welcome back, rude. Hey, old grandparent who doesn't have any kids. Also, this is some really good ones. Oh, hey, old grandparent. Rude. Liz shrugged, unaffected by your joking accusation. You'll survive. Oh, hey, old grandparent who doesn't have any kids.
Rude.
Rude. You shouldn't speak to your elders like that. You smiled at her, reached over and hugged her, poked her cheek, took hold of her hand. You shook your head. You reached over and hugged her. You quickly unbuckled and then launched yourself at your sister. She wrapped her arms around you and squeezed. Well, hi to you too, kiddo. Hello, sweetie. It's nice to see, it's so nice that you're here. Hi, Elizabeth. He jokingly huffed at her. We're not children. Whatever you say, baby boy. She turned her back to Mom and Ma. You really know how to make someone feel appreciated. Her spirits were high. You could tell she was just happy to be here as everyone was to see her. She left the door open but ducked out to walk around to the back of the car. She opened the trunk and lifted her luggage in. I'm gonna move your junk, Corey. I'll keep it in front of my bag so you can get it later. Ma's dropping you off first, right? Yes, but that's not junk, it's important. Liz slammed the trunk closed without responding. She swung around to the open door. You noticed that her hair had a few flyaways, no doubt from a long day of traveling. She leaned against the frame of the car, giving you and Cove a significant look. I'm not sitting in the middle. I already had 5 hours of that nightmare in the flight. There's no way I'm getting in between the two of you. I mean, really, who would ever want to be the person pulling Cove Hopen and Corey McClan apart? Hope puffed up indignantly yet again at her classic tease of your relationship. Liz continued along like she didn't notice.
So?
I don't care how you decide who's scooting. I figure you can fight it out somehow. Cope glanced over at you and shrugged. He unbuckled his seatbelt and moved to the middle. Thanks, Cove. I guess I'll always have a bossy big sister. I'm sorry you're always in the middle, Cove. Some people just must get their way. Good job, I wasn't moving. He stayed quiet. Guess I'll always have a bossy big sister. It's the law. It's more like Liz will never change. Exactly. Why would I need to? At the window, sit down. Liz squished herself into the car and shut the door. When everyone was settled, Ma began to pull out.
Let's go.
We're off. Liz crossed her legs, compacting herself slightly. She braced most of her weight on the floor on the door behind her instead of sitting up straight. It gave her a little more room. Hopefully we finish the journey. This car is almost as old as we are.
Now.
And it's still just as good as you are. Although complaining definitely means Liz is back. We're equivalent to this junker. Hey, I love this old car. You put as much fake hurt into your voice as you could manage. Neither of your moms took you up on your teasing. I feel insulted being compared to this rust bucket. This doesn't even have enough cup holders, Ma. Mom turned up the radios. Ma merged into the highway. The station was familiar, the normal soundtrack for when she had driven you and Liz around town. Liz bounced in her seat, enjoying the classic tune. The song would be old enough to boat at this point if it was a person. It were. That was hard to believe. With Liz, the conversation lived up, despite it getting later and later in the night. She told you all about her week and all the travel preparations she made. By the time she'd made it to the actual tale of the travel itself, Liz started chuckling. On the plane, Liz had sat next to a couple of girls who had talked a lot about how well they could read people. Liz recounted their conversation with her in hilarious detail, as they had apparently tried to guess her occupation after only shaking her hand. Neither of the girls could agree with one another, and Liz had refused to just tell them. However, the drive back to your hotel was only so long. Eventually, your group arrived. You yawned and got out of the car when it stopped. Cope clambered out after you. Liz gave a low sigh of relief at all the extra space she found herself with. You and Cope grabbed the luggage and then waved off your family after you said your goodbyes. After they left, you and Cope went to find your room. You scanned the keycard to unlock your hotel room. It sounded out a soft beep, and you turned the handle on the door. The door creaked open, then you craned your head to take a look. The first thing you noticed was the large, king-size bed in the middle of the room. It was a pretty modern-looking space. It seemed clean and smelled faintly like a floral air freshener. A smile played on Cope's face as he watched you take in the space. The bed's nice, huh? Which one of us is gonna use it? You burst out laughing. Are you serious? Here we go again. Me, you can fend for yourself. That was a joke. Can we please share the bed? Yes, fine. Thanks. I got a good hotel, didn't I? Yeah, you picked a nice one. It's passable. I guess we'll manage. Thanks for handling this. I'd say it's nice. It's the same hotel I would have picked on my own. It makes sense you'd go for this one. It looks like your room at Kira's place. Cope pouted exaggeratedly. Well, that room was like a good hotel room, so that means this is a good hotel room. You and Cope continued to chat as you settled in. You unpacked some of your stuff and checked out all the room's amenities. Cope pointed out the mini fridge and started puzzling over what food could be ordered into the room. However, the fact was you both were exhausted. Didn't take too many yawns before you both changed into your pajamas and called it a day. You had to hunt along the wall to locate the light switch. When you finally found it, you flicked it off with a sense of triumph. You turned your head over to Cove, who stood behind you in his pajamas. He was cozy and comfortable, but the pieces didn't match. He never minded that. I am exhausted. We both need our beauty rest. Cove smiled, a soft expression that was adorable.
All right.
Okay, let's go to sleep. Despite saying that it was bedtime, Cove took a step forward towards you. He wrapped his arms around your back, and you leaned into his embrace. Then he lifted you off your feet. What? Still not putting you down, Cove promptly dropped himself backwards. The both of you crashed into the tugged sheets of the hotel bed. He laughed the entire time. Cope bounced on the landing and absorbed most of the impact. You laid on his chest, feeling a little jostled. You giggled alongside him. Absolute madman. Let's do it again. You felt like a kid who had just ridden a roller coaster and had to get right back in line. That was the kind of thrill you lived for. He smiled up at the ceiling, a thought clearly crystallizing. My dad used to do that kind of thing to me when I was little, sort of. Nostalgia was clear in his voice. It was a fond memory, and you felt something warm in your chest. I remember you talking about it when you stayed over at my house as a kid. He'd lift you up really high and bring you back down. Yeah, I'm a cool dad. You made a small noise of understanding that turned into a yawn. When Cope yawned in return, you pulled out at the sheets until you were actually under the blankets. Good night, Cove. Night. Don't let the bedbugs bite. Sweet dreams. Stuck out your tongue at him playfully. Hey, so do you know why pigeons are called pigeons when they're actually doves? It's gotta be 6, come on. Cope blinked at your random tangent. He yawned and continued talking, your sleepy brain happy to info dump. Pigeon actually used to refer to the young cheeping bird, not a species like it does now. Cope nodded along as you continued, semi-interested despite the random topic. By the time you finished, he was watching you intently. You kissed his lips, forehead, nose, hair. Come on, kiss. You shuffled yourself closer so that you could lean in. You kissed Cove and felt his lips perk into a smile before kissing you back, obviously enjoying his goodnight kiss. Cobb wrapped his arms around you and snuggled next to you. He let out a contented breath. You reached out to hold Cobb under one arm, and then used your other hand to comb through his hair. The two of you relaxed into one another, and you knew neither of you would want to be anywhere else. I can't believe we're really here. You and Liz and everyone else are gonna be here in Sunset Bird again. I was staring at all the scenery going by while we were driving here, and it honestly felt like you never left. He ran a hand down his face. I mean, in some ways it feels like it's been ages and everything's different. Some of that is definitely cause I'm staying at a hotel instead of being in my room at Dad's, but yeah. Weird, natural, don't know, exciting. Hope things go okay. I just hope things go okay. Cobb nodded. He understood completely. I'm looking. A yawn forced an interruption into the statement. Cobb was undeterred. I'm looking forward to this. He took his head into your neck. You felt his lashes flutter close against your skin. Yeah, I can't wait.
See you tomorrow.
I'll see you tomorrow, Corey. His words were a whisper you rarely heard. It might not even have been that exactly. You might have just been guessing. Cobb always had a habit of mumbling. It was okay either way. Whether you heard it or not, or only thought you heard, the sentiment was true regardless. Cobb would see you tomorrow when he opened his eyes and the sunlight returned to your hometown of Sunset Bird. You comfortably drifted off to sleep and eagerly awaited seeing Cobb tomorrow as well. Your eyes gently opened to see a dim, unfamiliar ceiling. You recalled where you were. A hotel room. Yawning, your muscles felt relaxed and warm, enough that sleep threatened to pull you under again. Morning. Cobb's voice brought you back to consciousness. The heat made sense now. You knew the comfortable weight against you was your husband. His arm was draped around you, and his fingers were lightly drawing shapes on your pajamas. You twisted over to face him fully. Morning, sleepyhead. Cobb raised an eyebrow. His index finger drew a question mark across your back, pulling a giggle out of you. You knew what I meant. Have you been up long? You hooked your heel against his calf and trailed up to the space behind his knee. He hummed contentedly. Not too long. You squeezed him adoringly in your arms, snuggled against his chest, played with his hair docilely, kissed him. Eyes half-lidded, you reached forward and covered Cobb's lips with your own. You exhaled slowly through your nose and parted for only a fraction to take air in. Cobb cupped your cheek delicately and leaned his forehead into yours. You brushed your skin with his thumb before pressing into a new kiss. Neither of you were making any moves to get up and actually start the day. It was sweet and comfortable. To be wrapped up in Cobb, you could indulge just a little while longer. Eventually, enough time flew by that there really weren't any minutes to spare. There were too many people waiting, so you both crawled out of the sheets together. Standing up, Cobb took a few seconds to stretch. He glanced over at you with an animated expression. I'm really looking forward to your mom's anniversary dinner tonight. It's gonna be fun. I think so too.
I mean...
This whole trip is great, actually. Being here with everybody is like having another chance at being a kid. We can do all the stuff we used to, and all the things we never did but wanted to do. Yeah, the world is our oyster Cobb. I do not want to think about being little again. Good to be back. Sunset Bird won't know what hit it. Cobb's mouth curved into a bent smile. He tossed a pillow at you, and you caught it. Should I be worried about getting thrown out of town, or worse? Worse? Scolded? Laughing, you squeezed the pillow against your chest. You shook your head. That can't stop us now. Well, we better get back to it, huh? We've got a pretty full schedule ahead of us for your mom's big day. You smirked. So much for being a kid. So many responsibilities. I don't think seeing our friends really counts as responsibilities, Corey. Fine, you got me there. After that, you and Cove moved around each other, busily getting dressed and ready for the day. Light laughter and chatter filled the air the entire time. Bags were packed and phones were sought after. He suddenly tells Cove his phone when he hadn't been able to find it. Handed his phone, slapped Cove's butt, lost a single sock, shook your head at Cove when he ran. Okay. This one, come on. Cove let out a small yelp. You met his eyes with an impish grin, and he shook his head.
Oh,
Careful. His shyness melted away as he put himself in inches from you. I might have to do something to return the favor. You raised your hands in playful surrender. His mouth bent into a pleased smile. There was nothing else stopping either of you now. In minutes, you were hopping into your ride and heading back to the neighborhood. It was another beautiful summer day in Sunset Bird. You couldn't resist rolling down the window, so you could observe it all during the drive. Hope sat across the street from you, near the opposite window. His gaze was locked outside, catching all the old landmarks the vehicle was passing. Your spirits rose even higher the moment you made it home once more. Eager, you hopped out of the car and let yourself inside. Your moms knew you were going to be there that morning. But the second you made it past the threshold, an excited scream nearly scared you out of your shoes.
Hi.
Corey, you're here, and guess what? I'm here too. You know what? Lee looks great. She definitely looks great. When your heart rate settled, a broad grin quickly took over your whole face. Since your cousin moved out on her own, you'd noticed that she really found her own groove. She was still the same loving person she'd always been on the inside, but she expressed herself in new ways. Lee was strong, kind and smart. Over the past few years, she graduated college with a degree in history. Though last you heard, she was pursuing her dreams, working towards getting into the music industry. Hey, nice to see you, you look great. Morning, you smiled. Lee. Excited, you shouted just as loud as she did. Lee hugged you tightly, nearly knocking you off your feet. She leaned to the side to glance past you and meet Cove's eye. The grin on her face widened while she waved. Hi, Cove. Hey, nice to see you, Lee. I got in practically at dawn. It was a whole thing, but at least I made it here alive. Lee exhaled and slumped her shoulders to emphasize how exhausting the ordeal was. Behind her, Liz made her way over. She crossed her arms at the scene. I'm here too, in case you were wondering. I'm always wondering you were there somewhere. Nope, it wasn't, but thanks anyway. Nope. The pea popped loudly. You watched Liz's harming stare at your teasing. The mere smile on her face didn't change. You can't just say hello and nice to see you or you miss me like a normal sibling, can you? Can't you greet us like a normal person, Lizzie? Jeez, what a tough crowd. Still the same old Corey. I'm glad you're home. Another friendly shout rang out in the living room. It was as sheer as it ever was from the many times you'd heard it over the years. Good morning, family. Your parents both came out from the side hall together. Morning.
Well,
Now that everyone is here, I do have a little something to mention. Ma put her hand lovingly over her wife's. Mom leaned her head into Ma's while matching affection. With Ma's matching affection. Are they pregnant? Are science babies a thing now? We're all still having dinner together, but Pam here actually made plans to take me out to brunch to celebrate our anniversary. Just the two of us. Please, she hooked an arm around Ma's waist.
sorry.
Sorry to push you out, but I'm sure this group of mature grown-ups will be able to entertain themselves for an afternoon. We don't need to find a babysitter or anything. Totally. Yeah, have fun, moms. Don't worry about it. Understood. We'll tell you all about our shenanigans at dinner. This works out, actually. An afternoon open means there's time to meet up with Terry and Randy. Hopefully they're free today. Your two school friends still lived around the area. They knew you were coming for your mom's party, but when or how you may arrange to see each other wasn't set in stone.
Sounds good.
Definitely, we should call them.
All right.
I have some people I'd like to say hi to as well. Liz had her cell phone in hand, ready to get her plans made before she was even done speaking. Arching an eyebrow, she then directed the next part at Lee. Would you want to come along? We've missed you on a lot of cousin bonding time in the past.
Yeah.
I'd love to. It'd be an honor to hang out with you, Liz. No fair, Liz meant to go with me. I didn't hear you ask her. Deflating, your sister was right. She beat you to that. It was okay though. You knew that they'd have a fun day, and they deserve some time together. Bring her back in one piece. We have plans tonight. I will. Excellent. It's settled. She squeezed her wife's hand. Her gaze took in the whole room, ecstatic to have the house full again. Today is going to be perfect.
Yes.
I think so too. I truly couldn't be happier with my wife, my children, and our whole beautiful family. It's already a wonderful anniversary. There were awes and sweet comments from the group together around a couple of the hour. Seeing how your moms were, you couldn't help but hope that when you got to be their age, that you could be as proud of your life as them. After that, you enthusiastically began setting up plans to meet up with your friends. They were both able to come see you, having kept their schedules free for this, and you couldn't wait. Cope was also speedily sending text messages. Since you conveyed the plans to Terry and Randy, you imagined that he was letting his parents know about what he was gonna be up to. The group continued to chat and catch up until it was time for your mom's brunch and your big meetup with your friends. Soon enough, everyone was out of the door, looking forward to their fun-filled afternoons and then dinner later that night. Once outside on the neighborhood street, you looked to Cove. He stood at your side with a bent smile. Terry and Randy were driving into town while you and Cove were traveling on foot to meet them at the easier-to-reach spot. Man, we really are kids in Sunset... we really are kids in Sunset Bird again. Having to rely on other people who actually have cars to really get anywhere. Now we're stuck walking to wherever is nearby. You laughed, nodded in agreement. We never drive anyway. Cope rolled his eyes, landing them on you amusedly. Fine. You're right, I do like walking. Let's go. You bounced forward several steps and shot Cope a playful look over your shoulder. With that, the two of you began your trip down the old road. It was a casual stroll into town, and before you knew it, you were at one of the large parking lots in Sunset Bird. It was the one that used to have the little crepe stall. Remembering the delicious smell, you got lost in thought. The store did well enough that it moved into a full-sized building a couple of years ago now. You'd seen pictures. It was very cute. The parking lot was now just, well, an empty lot that cars could theoretically park in. Not many took the offer. Cope pulled out his phone, texted Terry and Randy in a group chat to let them know you'd make it. Someone must have answered already because Cope gave you a status update while still staring at the screen. Randy texted, I can see you. Oh, really? The blare of a car horn cut you off. You and Cope would turn towards the source of the noise. One of the windows rolled down.
Hey, buddies.
Hey, buddies. Your friends had arrived, making a spectacle of it, as expected. Being the only car meant that they got the pick of the lot, so they pulled to a stop in front of you. The window closed back up, and instead the two front doors popped open. Terry and Miranda stepped out onto the pavement. Hi, Cove. Hi, Curry. Miranda. With a sure wave, Miranda skipped toward you. Terry, on the other hand, walked speedily over to Cove, squeezing him into a hug. A quiet laugh escaped Cove, along with the majority of the air in his lungs. It didn't fight the constriction, but instead gave Terry's back a pat with a large grin spreading out across his face. When he let Cove go, Terry came right up to you. He held his fist up for you to bump it. Now, hug. Stepping his fist, you wrapped Terry into a big hug. He held you back tightly, rocking you back and forth excitedly. It felt so nice to have your friend group reunited as adults. Terry is currently a full-time lifeguard down at the busier beach a town over. You were proud of him. It helped a lot of people in his line of work. Miranda took Cove's hand and one of yours in her other. Her eyes alight, she gave you both a gentle squeeze.
So great.
I'm so happy to see you again. Hey, Terry. Hi, Miranda. He answered assuredly. It was clear that he was equally glad to see them. This reunion was long awaited. For a while, Miranda had been working hard as an assistant at a school while continuing her own education. She also kept busy running a small online shop, selling crafted knickknacks she made. Same, good to see you, miss you, been forever, you look cute. Miss you. Miranda's expression softened. She gave your hand another squeeze. I miss you too a ton. Miranda released her hands, giggling. She eyed you both carefully. So, how have you been?
It's nice.
Things have been nice. Everything is perfect. It's fantastic. Doing well, okay. It's fantastic.
That's cool.
Really. I'm really glad for you. You stood more confidently and straightened your back. That made her giggle again. You're sparkling. What about you? I'm super. Terry sidled up next to Miranda and put his arm around her shoulders, sighing dreamily. Randy chuckled up at her boyfriend. Yeah, things have been unbelievable. He pressed his cheek against Miranda's and she let out a light squeak. The sight put an amused grin on your face. Friends made a wonderful couple. They knew each other well and cared about each other so much. It was no shock at all when you heard the news that they'd started dating. The corner of your mouth curled playfully while you took in the warm welcomes all around. At times, it was still kind of funny how your group of 4 friends evolved into 2 couples. Not that you were complaining about it, you thought it was an amazing thing. Cope then pulled his phone out and peeked at the screen. He repeated the motion every so often. He raised a curious eyebrow at his unusual behavior. Cope was too focused on whatever he was doing to even notice you noticing him, which was even stranger.
So...
Is there anything either of you want to do while we're here? Any place you want to see? I'd be up for a lot of things, but actually there is something that I want to do right here. Oh yeah? What's that? Terry poked at Cove's arm playfully. Miranda met your eye, silently asking if you had any idea what Cove was talking about. You shrugged. I just want to see my friends. Cove, you're already doing that.
Well...
True, but I could be doing it even more. You, Terry, and Miranda all turned to Cove with identical, incredulous expressions. His stare moved to a point past you 3, and you heard the scrape of sand and gravel underfoot. Derek or Baxter? Someone else stepped into the parking lot. Startled, you jumped at the call of the warm voice shouting over.
Sup, guys and gals?
Sup, guys and girls? Derek, holy shit. Okay. Running a hand through his hair, the person who crossed the lot was unmistakably Derek Suarez. He was beaming the whole way. It's been too long, even though it hasn't actually been that long, but long enough. Derek, so glad you're here, hunk alert. Ran over and hugged him. Heard his arm wail. Let's go with Derek. You screeched his name and waved with both arms to welcome him. Bashful, Derek scratched the back of his head. You're here. You're in the flesh.
I
I missed you. He spoke to you gently. You were thrilled just being there, reunited with him. Derek was a good friend of yours, and he had been for a long time. Hey. He whipped over at Terry and Miranda pleasantly. Over the years, they all had met several times in passing, simply through being friends with the same people. Sup, big man? Hi, it's great you could come. He put himself next to Derek, happy. He clapped a hand on his friend's shoulder. Hi, thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Of course, thanks for inviting me. Sheepishly, Cope looked at you and the others. That's when it clicked in your mind. It wasn't his parents that he was texting earlier. It was Derek the entire time. Derek is in town for a few months to help my dad and his dad with some work. Yep, I'm working on my own business thing too, but I'm still involved with running the scuba shop when it's called for.
Very nifty.
Nifty. Humming, Derek Elwood Cove.
So?
But hey, we don't have to stand around here for my sake. What's the plan? Let's hit the town. Eager to get going, everyone piled into Terry's car. The rest of the afternoon was spent visiting spots all over Sunset Bird, laughing and reminiscing the whole way. Once it started to get late, Terry brought you and Cobb back to the neighborhood. You didn't have to walk there after all. You didn't get out until promises were made to see each other again before their trip ended. Okay. Side by side, you and Cobb stood in the street and waved at the car as it drove away. Terry tapped the horn for 2 honks while Miranda stuck her hand out of the window to wave back. You caught Derek in the back window, giving you both a wide grin. Sighing as soon as the car turned down another street, they were finally out of sight. Well, that was one party. Time for another. Ready to go see your moms? Of course. It's far too early to hop off the party train. Cobb raised his eyebrows before letting out a hearty laugh. He nodded in the direction of the house.
Come on.
Lead the way, conductor. Choo-choo, motherfuckers. Spirits high, you and Cobb crossed the distance to your house. It was almost time for the It was almost time for the anniversary dinner. You'd barely stepped over the threshold of the condo before Ma descended, eagerly welcoming both of you. The usual greetings were followed by questions on everyone's well-being, after which the conversation moved on to excited chatter about tonight's dinner plans. Cobb excused himself to the restroom to freshen up before being in the mood again. Good fucking grief. Holy fuck. Okay, Cobb, chill. Shocked to see he had entirely changed outfits. Where did that come from? I know, right? The hell. I packed it with me so I could get dressed before the dinner without having to go back to the hotel. Didn't you? Or maybe you have stuff still here at your mom's place? Cobb, I hate to break it to you, but no, I definitely didn't do something crazy like that.
Huh.
But your mom's party is at the country club. Yeah, historic middle-aged folks in Hawaiian shirts, what's your point? This isn't like those summer soirees where they were having a real party. We're only going for a regular meal. Cobb was as befuddled by your explanation as you were with his actions. He threw his arms up, desperate for understanding.
Seriously?
How can you not dress nicely for a country club? I don't think this press is as special as you've decided it is. You saw Ma, she wasn't in formal clothes, and she's one of the guests of honor. You realize now that whenever you went to the country club on a normal date, it was family time with just you, Liz, and your moms. Each time Cobb came, there had been more exciting things going on. You never would have thought of that before, but his perspective suddenly made a lot more sense. His frown wobbled and his cheek became pink, far pinker. He looked down at his own self regrettably as he pulled at the cuffed ends of his shirt. He seemed more like a scolded child than a grown man dressed for the latest charity gala. I thought she was gonna get changed while you and me were... Man, no way, she needed a whole lot more time than that. Well, it's okay, you look very nice. You're such a cutie. I love how much of an idiot. Cobb could only sigh, fully embarrassed. Well, it's okay. You look very nice. That earned you a sheepish smile, though he still clearly wished his look hadn't garnered any extra attention. Cobb's eyes stole a glance at the hall, as if he was calculating if he'd have a time for another quick change. Unfortunately for him, it was not meant to be. The time to head out came far quicker than you'd expected. Cliff and Kira swung by the condo to make sure everything was in order. And for your second surprise that night, Cliff was also in formal clothes. Cobb's face excitedly went towards you at the same time. Cliff went to Kira's. The two men pointed at one another. See? He knows. Exactly, sport. Kira's talking to me like it was crazy. You and her thought alike in terms of Holden Boy tactics. The aforementioned Kira placed a hand delicately yet dramatically across her eyes. Clifford, our son only knows this because you're the one who raised him. Cliff chuckled, his arm moving to scratch at the back of his neck. Yep, that's my boy. The ends of Cove's mouth gently bent up. It truly was his father's kid, in more ways than even he realized. They may be the only ones in the group, potentially the only guests of the entire club, all gussied up, but at least they could now take solace in one another. That looked to be good enough for them. All the members of your family headed out at the same time to the Cypress. It was to be a perfect reunion. An impeccably smart host greeted you on arrival, smoothly leading the way to the set of tables reserved for your group. Once you'd all settled in, chosen drinks were poured into delicate glasses, and food would be coming out later. Letting you soak up the atmosphere for a little longer. Smiling, your parents faced the group of familiar faces, all gathered here together to share this special day with them. Mom reached over and took Ma's hand, clasping it between both of hers.
Thanks.
Thanks for being here tonight, gang. Marrying this lady right here is the best thing I've ever done, and there's no one else I'd want to celebrate that with. Yes, we're so lucky. Not only do we have each other, but we got such a large and loving family through all of you. Around you heard people saying "aww" and chuckling appreciatively at the comment. Lee had clasped her hands tightly in front of her, her eyes shining. Your eyes met Liz's misty ones, and the affection she had for her moms carried over to you too. You returned your attention towards the happy couple just as they leaned in to kiss, smiling all the while. The table responded with cheers and clapping, shouts of "Happy Anniversary" and other congratulations continuing even after they'd broken apart. Mom beamed as she watched Ma giggle dreamily. Okay. The waiters reappeared, delivering delicious plates of food, and the dinner began in earnest. Both conversation and laughter continued to flow freely as night went on, with the two families relishing the opportunity to be together once more. Eventually, after your hunger and thirst had been fully satisfied, the plates were cleared, and the event began to draw to a close. Cliff and Kira exchanged goodbyes with your family before heading out together. Cope kisses goodbyes to his parents while hanging back until your moms were ready to head off. You're getting a lift back with your moms. It was already late, so you discussed the possibility of going straight to the hotel, rather than going back to the condo. But Cope had asked if they'd mind taking him back to the neighborhood. He wanted to visit a little longer. Your moms had happily agreed. Liz and Lee were feeling tired, so your moms swung by their hotels during the trip home, while you and Cope made the full journey with them. Running in the backseat of your mom's car with Cope felt more than a little nostalgic. As your eyes drifted over to him, his head resting on the window, it was hard to believe how much time had passed. Mom stretched as she got out of the car, smiling over her shoulders as she headed towards the house. Time to put my feet up? You two joining us? Cope shook his head. No thanks, it's your anniversary. You don't have to entertain me. I'll take a walk. It's never any trouble to have you over, Cove.
You alright with that?
Let him do as he pleases, Lani. But you better not stay out too much later, or there will be trouble. Matt chuckled as Mom waggled a finger, her expression exaggeratedly severe, as she reprised a role that, in truth, she'd never really played. Neither of your parents had been particularly harsh as you'd grown up. Ma joined in the act. Don't go too wild just because there's no school tomorrow. Laughing, they made their way inside, leaving you standing out in the dark street with Cope. You didn't even need to ask him why. You already had the answer for this. He wasn't ready for the day to end yet. Without the word, Cope began to stroll down the road. You walked alongside him. You'd known your destination long before you arrived in the dark, utterly deserted beach. There were no lights down here, nothing but the moon and the stars for illumination. The only sounds were the gentle waves rolling in and out, the soft sound of the footprints you left in the sand. In other words, it was perfect. Cope stepped out into the waves with the word. He looked up at the sky with a smile, then tucked his head down and began to pull his fancy shirt off. Fucking hell. He took it over his head and looked it backwards. Further up the beach, okay, and out of the reach of the waves. What are you doing? Didn't know I'd be getting a show. Wait for me. You looked away embarrassed. Followed him into the water. Better not go any deeper. Didn't know I'd be getting a show. Cope froze, his arm still raised from when he'd thrown his shirt. Slowly, it came back to life, stiffly pulling his arm back down. Her commentary had made him self-conscious. Laughing, he clapped your hands in delight at his awkwardness. Cope slipped his dress pants off and tossed them back in roughly the same direction. He was down to just his polka-dot boxer briefs. Sometimes you were really struck by the ways in which he was braver than his younger self. This was definitely one of those times. He never ever would have done this when you were both living on this street, but you also noticed he wouldn't do it with anyone other than someone he spent all those years with. You took your shirt so that you could swim. Hey, look at me, look at me, look at me. You gotta. Solidarity, you know? He waded further into the water until it came up to his chest. You unfastened your clothes and left them behind you, just as Cope had done moments before. You didn't even bother to see where they'd fallen before following him deeper into the sea. Cope grinned as you approached. I'm gonna be in so much trouble with my moms when we get back.
I guess.
Yeah? Oh well. Think fast. He splashed water at you as soon as the words had left his lips, giving you no time to prepare. The splash had caught you full on, leaving you spluttering and drenched. You splashed him back. Seeing what you were doing, Cope put his hands up for protection. It was no use though. The water washed over him, leaving his hair soaked through. Cope sighed, then looked at you mournfully. The sudden shift in mood alarmed you, but those words disappeared as soon as he opened his mouth. We're still not merfolk. The world is cruel. He snickered. After a moment, Cope's smug sadness broke, and he joined in. The two of you wound up drifting further down along the shoreline, chatting and enjoying the chance to be back on the beach that had provided the backdrop for so much of your childhood. Eventually, a silhouette of structures appeared up ahead. As you drew closer, you realized it was the old playground. Cope spotted it too and hurried towards it, dragging himself out of the water and heading into the park. Wet sand coated his feet and lower legs with every step, linking thickly enough that it began to resemble a bizarre pair of boots. As you followed him, you wondered how many visitors this little park got these days. There were officially no children living in that neighborhood now. Cope gazed at his surroundings in wide-eyed awe. He didn't care at all that he was soaking wet and dressed only in his underwear. Crouching, he gently pushed one of the child-sized swing seats, marveling at it all.
Wow.
I can't believe how tiny everything is. Were we seriously small enough to use these? He shook his head, unable to fathom just how little you'd both been when you first met. Then walked over to the monkey bars. Once those had been a challenge for you. Now they were little more than waist height next to Cope. Cope turned his back to the bars and hopped up onto them with ease, sitting on them comfortably. You sat in the bars with him. It was strange seeing adult Cope juxtaposed with the baby playground, but you took your own place in the structure. This place had been something so exciting to Cope back when he first arrived, and apparently it was to this day. Cope smiled eagerly as you approached, kicking his feet in the air happily, briefly forgetting the low vantage point until the tip of his toe scraped along the ground. He continued to swing his feet, but with a little more care. You thought it was adorable. In this moment, you were home. It just so happened to be the place you've grown up. But really, anywhere you could be with Cope was that for you. He had held a special place in your heart for so long, and so much of your life had been shared. You'd grown up on the same street, which had given you some common ground, but it went far beyond that. You had both chosen from a young age to share your life with each other. You wouldn't have it any other way. Here we are again. Looks like it. The mood had shifted now. The funny, impulsive night beach trip, with a spike of adrenaline that came from you playing in the water under the moonlight, has settled into something quieter and more nostalgic. Cove leaned back, tilting his head towards the sky to admire the stars above. Too bad I wasn't able to bring my surfboard along for this. Cove shrugged dramatically, trying to lift the mood a little. The dinner was really nice. It was great to do all this. The smile he had when he spoke those words fell as quickly as it had appeared. It went by so fast. We all came out here for the party and it's over. Liz, Lee, and her parents will all be going back to our own things now. But what else can you do? Except say it's okay? I guess it's part of growing up. This place and these people, they're our foundation. It shaped who we are now, like making castles out of sand. I owe a lot to Sunset Bird. His eyes crinkled fondly, and Cove's voice was gentle when he spoke again. We had a good childhood, I think. I think so too. Really lucky. So old now. We're really lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. He shook his head, sighing heavily. Alright. His smile took an uncharacteristically harsh twist. You had a feeling where this was going. We better get home before your dumb parents who don't know anything get mad. You had to laugh at that half-hearted impression of young Jeremy, the boy you met in this very park. He chuckled along with you for a moment before tapering off. I hope we don't get grounded. The jokes kept coming. It was very amusing to imagine that not only would your mom somehow ground you as a fully grown and independent adult, but that their powers extended over Cove as well. As much as you were enjoying being back there, Cove was right. You had to accept that you needed to go now. It was late and your moms were still expecting to see you before you got a ride back to the hotel. You and Cove hopped down from the bars, landing easily with the ground, only a short distance away. Before you could return, you had some clothes to retrieve from the beach. You retread the same path, following the footprints down to the shore you'd left in the sand only a little while earlier. Once you and Cove had scrunched up your abandoned clothes, you started to walk up the old path home, side by side. Droplets of water slipped down your skin and fell into the road as you made your way back to your mom's house. As you and Cove were still soaked and sandy from your earlier adventure, it was likely that you were leaving quite a trail in your wake. But you seen Cove's bedroom growing up. It was only natural for him. The air was slightly humid, already pleasantly dense with moisture that felt like a hug as it closed around you. Any damp footsteps that were left behind could take longer to dry in this weather. The signs of your adventure might even be invisible when the sun came up the next day. You'd hope so. You quite liked the idea of you and Cove leaving your mark on your hometown again, even if only for a little while. Despite being soaked through and mostly undressed, the balmy summer night prevented you from feeling any chill. You were entirely comfortable. In truth, you felt warm inside and out. The day had been so lovely, spending time with friends and family, and your eyes drifted over to Cove. Cove, you suppose. Just seeing him brought a smile to your face. I love you, want to be with you always. Happy, truly my other half. I love you. Cove turned to you, his eyes wide and adoring, and he bit his lip as he smiled shyly. You could tell that your words had touched him. I feel the exact same way. He held your gaze a moment longer, looking straight at you as he spoke again.
I love you.
I love you forever. You enveloped him in a hug. Kissed him. Catching him by the hand, you stopped Cove in his tracks and pulled him close. Your heart somersaulted as your lips met. At this moment, with the quiet seaside town at rest, it felt like it was just the two of you in the world. Cove returned the kiss, gently cradling your head with his hand until you broke apart. You were full of joy. All other concerns and the day-to-day stresses of normal life were squeezed out by it. All you could think in that moment was how your life was wonderful. Every second and every day needed to end sometime, and that time had nearly come for tonight. You had to get at least some rest and bring it all to a close. And so the two of you went inside to say goodnight to your moms as well as clean yourself up as best as you could. Your moms, both in pajamas ready for their own sleep, hooted with laughter as you came inside, disheveled and damp, and their teasing continued until the car came to get you to the hotel. Cope stayed silent as he put his casual clothes on again, placing the formal ones back in the bag he brought them in. You'd given Mom and Map plenty of material for a mock scolding, and you got a playful lecture about not getting into the water without bothering to change first. You just grinned at your parents' partner in crime, feeling like a naughty kid again. It'd been worth it. By the time you and Co finally dragged yourself to your hotel room for the night, the sky had been dark for some time, and the lonely hotel hallways were quiet. The late hour made you feel a sense of fulfillment. You really were making the most of your trip. It was a Chanel thought that this was almost over. You had settled into this new routine naturally. All the familiar streets and faces made everything easy to get used to. The two of you drowsily shuffled past an ice machine and into your room. Cope set his phone on his bedside table, and you followed suit. You both started settling in for the night. The hotel room was a welcome sight for you after your long day. You notice Cope rubbed the back of his neck and yawned. His voice was quiet and distant. Oh. I hope the pet sitter is doing good. You do well. Superman does good. The wish wasn't exactly directed to you. It was just a sleepy thought that Coop had unleashed upon the world at large. But you still agreed. I hope so. That sitter is watching some of the best animals on the planet. Coop still kept fish after all these years. Delightful, colorful things in huge aquariums. He spent a lot of time when he wanted to relax just watching them swim. You also had adopted a pet, who you loved dearly. Your home was a lovely place full of critters that both of you cared for. That was why, with both of you gone, it had been important to find a decent pet sitter. Cope's anxiety about leaving them hadn't subsided. Over the vacation, you had caught him a few times texting the pet sitter and asking about his fish. It'll be okay. Cope turned his head to you, the nervousness still coming off despite his exhaustion. Remember, you gave that pet sitter such an in-depth fish orientation that they knew all of their names. And most of the fish are practically identical. Cope laughed, instantly lighter. You nodded in satisfaction. Mission accomplished. Cope yawned widely. You seemed confused at the magnitude of it. He groggily blinked at you. I think it's time for bed. That's a great thought. You yawned and then raised an eyebrow at Cope for making you catch his. He gave a little smile, but then ended up yawning again. I think so too. The two of you got changed and brushed your teeth. In no time at all, both of you were cozy and ready to sleep. After that, you flopped onto your side of the shared bed. Cope headed over to his side and you felt the mattress dip under his weight. You tucked yourself under the covers and Cope snuggled in closer to the middle. You turned on your side to face him and scooted slightly closer. Your noses almost touched, and Cope watched you with a soft expression on his face. Cope gently spoke, his words like a lullaby.
Good night.
Good night, Corey. You have a good night too. Cope's eyes fluttered shut and he let out a contented sigh. There was a warmth from Cope's body next to you. He was right there. His presence was comforting. Perfect for lulling you to sleep. His presence was alluring. You really wanted your hands on him. I'm sorry, I have to. Your hand drifted over to Cope's, and you ran over your fingers up his arm, across his shoulder, and then finally to his face. Cope trembled at the gesture. Cradled his cheek, and his eyes opened slightly to peek at you, unsure. Are you tired? As nice as it was to be near him, you understood he might not be in the mood. You wouldn't mind if you both just went to sleep instead. Cope mumbled into the hotel blanket.
I mean,
not anymore. Your eyebrows lifted. You flushed as a growing excitement replaced any previously held plans to rest. He leaned forward and lightly kissed his lips. He pecked you back affectionately. You could feel his smile in his affection. He rolled slightly so that he was fully on his side, and had better range of motion. With a new freedom of his arm, he reached over to stroke the back of your head. When the first kiss ended, you immediately started another and then another. Cope stopped running his fingers down your hair to hold your head closer. You kept going. Okay. Fascinating. How far is this going to go? Because... oh shit, okay. Sir, put your legs around him. Tangle your legs around Cove. You need to get even closer. He twisted his arm around your back and kissed the corner of your mouth. Kiss him deeply. Snaked your arms around Cove and pulled him as close to you as you could, savored the heat of his body against you. You pressed into Cove as long as you could manage before needing air. He responded just as desperately. Alright, let's grab his butt, I guess. You slid your hand down his back, lingering and caressing as you pleased. However, your touch had a purpose, and you kept going until you grabbed his butt. A shiver went through him, and he grinned, and he gripped your pajamas harder. You smiled at the curve of his lips. Hey. You kissed his neck, bent over, the covers wrapping around you, and kissed all the way across the side of his neck. Cove squirmed under your touch, and made a new pleased noise with every touch. Nibbled on his ear. You pressed your chest against his and toyed with his earlobe, peppering it with soft little bites. Cove spoke breathily, inaudible words against the crook of your neck. And you grabbed onto his shirt. You tugged and pulled at Cove's soft pajamas. It stretched under your fingers. Cove started to run a hand along your hair again, sweetly carving through the strands. It was a never-ending reassurance that he was there, and he cared about you. Hey, I guess finish it up. You pressed your foreheads together affectionately. Cove happily looked back at you before he bent his torso so that he was in a position more over you. He kissed you back, and ran his tongue along the bottom of your lip. You kissed him back eagerly, and caressed further. Cove twisted his head towards his pillow, and squished his face into it, letting out a sigh. You smiled, and you snuggled up against him, both of you starting to settle from the heated moment. Cove's face remained pressed to the pillow, and you watched his chest rise and fall visibly with his deep inhales. But his arms stayed around you, holding you close. When his breathing slowed, he shifted back over and met your eyes. Cove nuzzled his cheek against you lovingly and whispered, "You really shouldn't stay up all night, huh?" You accepted Cove's judgment. He was right. You both needed to sleep for tomorrow. You curled up comfortably in each other's arms, ready to actually settle down for the night. Your eyes felt closed sometime after. You were not sure exactly when. Only the fact that they were now too heavy to open. You felt a mixture of bitter and sweet emotions. You were happy to be here, but sad that it was ending. There was a relief that There was a relief that you would soon be in your own home again, but also wondering when you would return here. There were many more feelings swirling around in your head that hadn't even crystallized into thoughts yet. Paradoxically, you felt nice but also confused, but then also nice from the confusion. In the back of your mind, you realized that you really must be tired. Unsurprisingly, your exhaustion did not give you too much time to muse on your emotions, and in what felt like seconds, you were already dreaming. The dreams dancing around your head became fragmented and faded until you couldn't remember a thing about them at all. You were growing more and more aware of the real world. Hope was gently shaking you. You woke up feeling enveloped by warmth. Humming happily, you felt Cove's fingers trail up your arm. You opened your eyes with a smile, struggled to keep your eyes half open. Closing your eyes again, you snuggled into Cove. You nuzzled into his chest, letting out a delighted sigh. The warmth of your breath sent a shiver through his body. You wrapped your arm around him, holding him there. Not that Cove minded too much. He happily held you back. The sleepy morning couldn't last so long though, and eventually you felt Cobb's thumb running circles into your shoulder, trying to ease you back awake.
It's okay.
I won't tell you either, but it's got to be done. You have to get up, Corey. Once we get past today, we can spend as much time in bed together as you want, okay? Your eyes snapped open at that, and your grip on him tightened as you lifted your head up to look at him. His mouth curled playfully. You sat up fully with a big yawn, stretching your back, then your arms, and lastly your neck, before accepting the day. The blanket fell to the side while you swung your legs over the side of the bed. A part of it almost got caught on your foot, but you kicked it away. Cobb slipped out of the bed on the opposite side. Today would be the last day in Sunset Bird. The only thing you had planned was some family time in the old neighborhood. You figured you'd see where the day took you from there. Yawning again, you glanced over at your clothes. There was just one more day to leave out of your bag. Don't have anything clean left but a well. Hey Cove, is there anything you'd like to see me in today? Let's ask Cove. Your teasing had Cove shaking his head, but then his gaze locked with yours. His smile grew, and you raised a quizzical eyebrow. You already know the answer to that. An anklet? Good guess, but that's only second place. Really, what else have you ever said about that? His mouth curled into an enthused smirk. Cove clearly had some kind of setup, and now he's gonna get to pay it off. Nothing. Okay. Alright, Cove. Fair play, fair play. Oh. Now it made sense, only this time instead of that answer being a poorly worded deflection from a shy teen, it was an entirely literal statement from your grown-up husband. Throwing your head back, you burst into laughter, and Cope soon after joined you. Well, I better get started on that. You reached for your pajama top and started raising it a few inches teasingly. Cope shook his head from side to side, chuckling the entire time. It was a fun time. And though you were going to have to take that off for real, it would still require getting dressed for the day after. Alright, let's get things going. Our families are waiting. Nodding, you and Cobe swiftly finished getting ready in the small hotel room. As soon as you had your stuff together, you were ready to go. And you were off. During the ride there, you and Cobe decided to visit his dad's house first this time. When you got dropped off, Cobe eagerly hopped out into the street with his eyes locked on his father's condo. Your gaze fell on your spouse. He stood in the middle of the street where you grew up together, while the summer sun made him shine, though he was the brightest light in your eyes no matter what. A playful grin spread across your face. It was a beautiful day, and a beautiful boy. Cope strode up to his old front door, and casually flung it open without bothering to knock once again. You followed at his side as he poked his head in. You closed the door behind you both. Hello. Found Cliff and Kira in the kitchen, getting breakfast ready. Second. Found Kev. Second. Here was cutting an apple while Cliff was watching a frying pan sizzle. Cope's parents waved from across the room, not straying from their tasks. Good morning, you two. Yeah, morning, and hello to you. I hope you slept well. Morning, Mom and Dad.
Thanks.
Thanks for swinging by. You're more than welcome to join us for breakfast here. If you haven't already eaten, of course. We haven't yet, though even if we had, there's always room for more. Kira chuckled. She put down the knife she had in her hand so that all her attention could be on her son. You're still my giant growing baby boy. Mom, please. Kira didn't pay Cope's whining any mind. Instead, she put a finger up to her lips as she thought, her eyes on you and then glimpsing towards a window.
What do you think?
I wonder, do you think your family's eating yet, Corey? No clue. I haven't checked in with them yet. You get to be the first stop. Your eyes flicked over to the clock on their oven. Given the timer, your moms may have eaten, or they could be having a shower as lower morning. It was a coin toss either way. Well, give him a call. They could come over. Cobb nodded, a such expression on his face. Making them breakfast is the least that we could do after how much food I ate at their house growing up.
Right.
True, bud. Very true. Alright. You took out your phone. Even though your moms both had cells for years, the house number was the one that you had memorized as a kid, the first entry on your contacts list. As the call connected, you tapped the speaker button. You figured it would be easier if everyone could hear what was going on. You heard a click and familiar static.
Hello.
Hello, Corey. It's nice to hear from you. Hey, Ma. Guess who's currently across the street in a kitchen full of food and an invitation to share said food? You waited a beat. It's me. I'm at the Holdens and they wanted to invite you and everyone over to eat with us. What do you say? That sounds delightful. Pamela and I can do that. Listen, Lee should be able to make it too. Would that be fine? Cliff took a step forward and spoke loudly so that his voice could be picked up. It definitely would be. The more the merrier.
Marvelous.
We may have gotten together for dinner last night, but there's no law that we can't do it again for breakfast today. Enjoy the company while you can, is what I think. Matt giggled and you could hear some rustling over the line. Thank you. I'll let them know and we'll be right over. Cliff gave a thumbs up. Cobb shook his head with amusement. Dad just gave a thumbs up. I'm telling you since you can't see him over the phone. Kira snorted and Ma's laughter rang out, filling the kitchen. Cliff switched the thumbs up and to instead scratch the back of his head.
See you.
Well, it sounds like we'll see you soon. Goodbye for a little while. Hey, Tricky, welcome back. Good to see you. You could feel her smile from her voice. Bye, Ma. You ended the call with a satisfying tap of the red button. Cliff's eyes wandered around the space. We better get cooking.
Sounds good.
I can help. Just tell me what we're making. No way, you're guests. Kira and I have got this. She grinned. There was something playful in the twist of her lips.
Right.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Cliff. I've been in your spot before. There's no choice but to accept it. Cobb sighed, but from the sparkle in his eyes, you could see that he was entertained. Fine, we'll just hang out over here, I guess. Good. Cobb walked over to the living room and gestured at the couch. You both took a seat, getting a comfortable spot to wait for food and family. Cobb tilted towards his parents with his chin, then shook his head with a gentle smile, silently asking if you could believe this. All you had was a silent shrug. The time passed. Filled with light chatting, Cobb kept a careful watch on his parents' culinary progress and decently kept a running commentary. Oh, that had another pinch of salt. I wonder if that was a good idea. Cliff had to raise his voice to project over to the living room. He sounded very amused. It's funny that you of all people are commenting on my salt usage. We were both born and raised in salt water. Besides, I'm sure you remember back when you were about 12 and tried to make... Cobb flushed slightly, but his smile remained as bright as ever. Do you really want to start talking about cooking mistakes, Dad? Because I remember a lot of things too. Like, what about that chowder that was supposed to be a pie? I'm sorry, chowder that was supposed to be a pie? What? What the hell? Okay. Cobb and his family were quite a show to listen to. You chimed in occasionally, but mostly you provided the laugh track. Eventually, there was a rhythmic knock on the door. Oh, that's them. He said it loudly for his parents' benefit. You nodded and got up to greet your family. When you opened the door, surprisingly, there were no moms. Harry stood in front with Miranda at his side. Derek waved from behind them. Hey buddies, we came to see you two before you left. The plan would have been to go over to Corey's house next if you weren't here. Luckily, you two aren't too hard to find. What he said. And hi. Cope burst into happy laughter. His brows were high in surprise, not unlike how he looked after unwrapping a nice present. Wow, thanks for coming. Hello. Kira's voice carried through the house from the kitchen. Liv likewise projected. Great, the whole gang will be here. You heard the sound of cabinet open and shut. A pan clattered and the faucet turned on. Are we interrupting something? You're joining a breakfast party. My parents, sister, and cousin are coming over. We actually thought that you were them when you knocked. Yep, but my dad always makes a ton of food anyway, so it's no problem for you guys to join. Cope waved off their concerns before pausing with a thoughtful hum. The only real problem is, do we have enough places for all these people to sit? He peered back into the house and started counting the dining room table, chairs, and bar stools. 5, 6. Cliff interrupted when Cope began trying to use his fingers to connect the different chairs to different guests.
No worries.
Don't worry. Some people can squish together on the sofas. It'll be fine. This really is gonna be a party. Well, I'd be happy to accept the invitation. Yeah, you'd have to be crazy to skip out on this.
Thanks.
Thank you for making room. We're really glad that you came. Your 3 friends finally pulled into the house. One moment, guys. Okay. Upon the house, before they had a chance to settle in, the doorbell rang. Only Miranda had sat down.
Alright.
Now that has to be them. People laughed as he walked back over to the door and opened it up. He was right this time. It was your parents, Liz and Lee, all crowded on the front steps. They squinted into the house and were surprised at just how many greetings were said. The sheer force of the chorus of hellos was impressive. Second. Okay. Okay, give me 1 second. Alright, they squinted into the house and were surprised at just how many greetings were said. The sheer force of the chorus of hellos was impressive.
What?
How did they beat us here? How early did Corey call you? We're literally across the street. Terry snorted at your sister's confusion. He seemed quite pleased with himself. We were a surprise. We called ourselves.
Cool.
Very cool. Liz smirked as he adjusted the settings on the stovetop. It's a little more crowded than expected, but we're making it work. Cope led the final group to complete the picture inside, and they took the chance to greet you, along with everyone else. When the excited energy buzzing around the table started to calm, you had a second to truly appreciate this view. The most important people in your life all together again. It still felt too good to be true to have everyone here. And then, you noticed that Kira stood back up. She clapped her hands, once in a satisfying smack.
I goodies.
I had to interrupt, but I thought you'd want to know that the food's done and cooking. Sorry, that the food's done cooking. Cliff crossed the floor to place a pile of silverware on the table, and then he dropped stuff on the other surfaces around the rest of the living room. When he was done, he gestured towards the food.
Okay.
The plates are in the kitchen, serve yourselves and sit wherever you like. The guests happily formed the line, and the meal was steadily passed around. Before long, each person claimed a seat in the Holden living room area. Some at the table, others at the kitchen island, and some situated at the couches. Conversation trickled across the various clusters of friends as everyone dug in. Cove finished his plate in record time with a pleased sigh. He put his fork down and surveyed the room. This is really cool. Just how we're getting to do this kind of thing. I like this too, Kobe. I hope we'll be able to make this happen again. Of course, there'll always be more reasons to get the gang back together in the future. Yes, the two of you might even dare to celebrate your yearly anniversary. Gasp. Every year. The smirk on Liz's face grew only wider as her mom's giggled at her teasing. Mom shook her head, chuckling softer now.
Shush.
Liz, shush.
True.
Honestly, we just might. You've made a good point. It does come around every year. You should. Seriously, you deserve a big celebration for your magical day. The kids are right. You've got a lot of people who want to appreciate you. You've got to give them a chance. It's true. I know I have a lot to thank you for. You were there. There were more nods of agreement around the room, and your moms took each other's hands for support. Neither were expecting so much encouragement. We'll think about it. You'll think about it, and I'll tell Lani to stop thinking so hard if she doesn't agree. Pam.
Good.
Good job, Mom. Now with that settled, let us continue to enjoy this perfect gathering. Agreed. Actually, you wanna know who else being here would make this extra perfect? As amazing as this was, you couldn't help but think of absent faces. In seconds, everyone curiously turned their attention to you. Baxter. Go turned to you with a genuinely thoughtful look. He rubbed at his forearm while he composed his words. It'd be kind of interesting to see what Baxter would be like now. I think I wouldn't mind seeing him again. Though, it'd probably be awkward. Yeah, that's what I think too. I just want to know.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, Baxter was that cool guy with the eyes, shared in the fancy rental car, right? I liked him. He was pretty nice. Yes, he was iconic. It's too bad he had to mysteriously disappear and never be heard from again. But maybe that makes him even more of an icon. Okay. Shiloh can go fuck himself. Not getting invited. Jeremy. It would be cool if Jeremy was here too. Where? A small chuckle escaped Kobe before his lips curled into a bent smile. He shook his head slightly while he studied you in disbelief.
I guess.
You know he would hate this. But yeah, I wouldn't mind if Jeremy was actually here. Snickering, your cheeks hurt from grinning so wide. You could easily imagine how vocally annoyed Jeremy would be sitting among all your friends and family. It was amazing that despite the twists and turns life threw in your direction, you still kept in touch with the angry little boy you met one summer a long time ago. Somehow the universe brought you both together again as teens, and since then you'd continued talking on and off for the past 5 years. You appreciated the occasions that you got to check in with him. Since becoming an adult, his personality had gone through a few more changes. Jeremy was definitely still downcast and dry, but he got back some of that fighting spirit he had as a kid. Smiling to yourself, you felt that things kind of came around full circle that way. His negative attitude aside, Jeremy did well for himself. He is going to graduate from a well-respected business university very soon. You were genuinely happy for him. As much as he protested the very notion, you were pretty sure that Jeremy was gonna end up going back home and helping his parents run their small hobby shop. Leaning back in the seat, you were pleased with the suggestion. Derek scratched his cheek with an amused chuckle.
I swear.
It's unreal that you did become friends with that mean kid. Talk about a comeback for the ages. It's historic. giggling, you thought about how Derek and Jeremy only ever met in person that one summer, years and years ago. Okay, give me 1 second, guys. Perfect. Okay. But because you had continued a continued relationship with both, you'd kept them informed on each other. While Jeremy couldn't muster up any care about what was going on with his old acquaintance, Derek was always morbidly intrigued by the latest Jeremy updates. You are more than happy to oblige. There's no way Jeremy would agree that any of us are friends. Pran is still the only one who gets that honor. Incredible. Being people he's decently familiar with is still close enough when it comes to Jeremy. Yep. Shiloh, let's see what Shiloh makes come up. This started you blankly for several seconds before covering her mouth with her hands and laughing hard. Lowering her hand, she shook her head. Change of heart, huh? I thought you didn't want to speak to him again? Well, that was a long time ago, and it'd still be fitting for him to be here. Kova's mouth wobbled nervously. He shrugged, unsure of what to make of your suggestion at all. Those two men definitely never became close. Sorry, guys. You left things there. There was a playfulness in Kira's stare as she scanned the room. She slowly placed her index finger on her chin. Now that I think about it, there's something I haven't done in a while. A eyebrows were raised at Kira's incomplete thought. She was wordlessly urged to continue. She didn't hesitate. Look through all the photos Cliff has here. Wouldn't that be fun for all of us? What, Mom? Why would you say that? Practically all of those photos are of me. And that's why embarrassing my baby boy is just one of those perks of being a mom. Much to Cope's dismay, his mom was thoroughly entertained at his outburst. She winked in your direction. Meanwhile, Cliff eagerly stood up with a wave of proud affection for his son, and completely missed Kira's teasing intent.
Oh.
I think that's a great idea. Anyone else interested in the pictures?
Yeah.
I am. Lee shot her hand up before Cliff could even take a full step. Terry and Miranda snuck each other a glance before nodding with matching grins. That sounds swell.
That's
That would be lovely,
fantastic.
Cliff. Mom tried to hide her amusement behind her hand, but she couldn't stop the snicker that slipped out. Oh boy. Poor Cove, everyone loves to pick on you. Only out of love. A snort and giggle slipped out of Liz before she could hide her mouth with her hand. She shook her head, feeling embarrassed by Kira's knowing smile and unwavering gaze. Of course. Cove buried his face in his hands and sighed, slowly. His shoulders deflated in defeat. Fine, we can take a look. Everyone happy with picture time? Yay!
Fun.
Yes! They both excitedly raised a fist in victory. Smaller cheers worked their way around the room. Your friends and family were delighted with this turn of events. The hell? Dad flipped open his faded album of physical pictures. He held it up to his face. Second. Alright. Okay. He held it up to his face. The corners of his eyes crinkled. And though the book covered much of his face, you were certain he was smiling fondly. But he didn't keep it to himself long. Laying in the family album on the dining table, you and the rest of the party gathered around to get a peek. The first picture on the first page was baby Cove in a cute little onesie. There were several coos and ahs from the group, and Cliff's eyes were shining with tears as he sniffled. Oh my god. Oh, this is fucking funny. Poor Cove. He's grown so much. Cove was such a cute kid. That's my darling angel. Nice onesie, Cove. Oppressions. Even as a baby, you looked unimpressed. Sighing loudly, Cove crossed his arms. His pout grew worse, and it only put a wider grin on your own face. It was a perfect match to the younger self, captured in ink on the page. My baby boy was a very quiet child. I probably had a lot on my mind. That's never changed. What was there to think about? Snack time versus nap time? Cove scowled. Meanwhile, you and Kira couldn't help but crack up into fits of laughter. After breakfast and the photo showcase, everyone decided to stick around. Hanging around with Mr. Holden's house turned into taking a walk around the neighborhood. And then, for lunch, you switched over to your mom's condo. It was a really good time. Everyone enjoying each other's company. But eventually, the sun began to set, and there was nothing else to delay your friends and family from going home. Inside your mom's house, the home you had been raised in, the group was taking their time saying their goodbyes. It was tough for you. Your family, your friends. You knew what was weighing on the mood. It might be some time before you'd see one another again. It was a pleasure having you all here, and you're welcome to come around again, anytime. Ma wrapped an arm around Mom with a light chuckle. Mom leaned her head gently into her wife, and they both beamed.
I appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
I know we're all adults with our own hectic lives, but we appreciate the time taken to visit. Snorting, Liz crossed her arms. She leaned one hip out to the side while her lips curled teasingly. You make it sound like this was such a struggle. Some of these people still live here. And it was a vacation for everyone else. Even so, it was very thoughtful, and I hope everyone has a safe trip home. Kira clapped a hand on Cliff's shoulder. He was puzzled as she leaned in so he could hear her. That means you too. It's dangerous crossing the street. Remember to look both ways. Hey now. Yeah, good luck with all the important grown-ups things I'm sure you'll have to do when you're all out of here. Definitely. I'll give updates next time something exciting happens, or something lame, so I can vent about it. How nice. I'm glad Lee won't be forgetting the little people. Never ever. I'll keep in touch too.
Very
You better.
nice.
Well, me and Randy aren't going far, so we can keep an eye on the town for the rest of you. Nothing will get past us. Right, we'll make sure everything is okay. No need to worry at all.
Thanks.
That's kind of you. Miranda and Terry eye each other's pleased smiles, already committing to their self-appointed task. Derek scratched the back of his head, wearing a pensive look. It's always sad when I have to leave this town. It happens too often. But at least there will be people looking out for Sunset Bird. That makes me feel better about it. After a pause, Mr. Holden gave the younger folks a thumbs up. That's all great. You've got a lot to be proud of, and a lot to be looking forward to. Well said, Cliff. I'm thankful that I've been privileged to witness the growth you've undergone over the years. You've each matured beautifully. Cope was touched by his parents' words, and struggled to come up with something to follow. Yeah, it's been good seeing everyone. No one had taken a step yet, and you couldn't put this off any longer. It was time to say goodbye. See you again, miss you, Swan. I'm so glad we got to do this. Me too. Today was even better than I imagined. I don't know what we're gonna do without the kids around. And no, they keep us young. We're not that old. Some of us still got it. Yeah, for sure. Holy shit. She winked at Cliff teasingly and he shook his head. Both your moms laughed at that, and you caught several more cracks of smiles among your friends. Afterwards, there was more sniffling and hugs, a lot of hugs. Then people started trailing out into the street, seeing others off. Your friends kept and family got into their cars and left the neighborhood. By the time things had fully settled, you realized that the sun had set. Earlier, you and Cove decided on having a car pick you both up. Neither of you wanted to bother your parents after such a long day. It would be a little while longer before it would be there, though. It was the right choice, as both sets of parents showed you worry looks. The four seemed ready to call it a night. It didn't take either you or Cove very long to assure them that it was okay to head home and go to bed. With one more round of good night and goodbyes, your families returned to the condos. Then the only people left on the street were you and Cove. Cove closed his eyes, humming happily. While he waited for it to pass, he stared up at the sky. The moment was comforting, but suddenly your face scrunched up, bemused. Something was wrong. Something that made you feel somewhat empty. And then it dawned on you. Cove's windchime wasn't here anymore. The feeling of the wind washing over the street just wasn't right without the familiar tune. But Cove had taken it with him in the move. With a bittersweet smile, you knew that you'd be able to hear it again when you got home. Cove's hands were in his pockets, and his shoulders were relaxed when he caught your attention with a tilt of his head.
So...
Can you guess what I'm thinking? Well, at the moment, you were in the neighborhood you grew up in together with some time to spare. The corner of your mouth curled into a grin. Cove made things too easy for you. That the fires are out? Right. You wanna go to the Poppy Hill before we leave? Always. There was an eager bounce in your step, and as you and Cove crossed over towards the hill behind your mom's house. Side by side, you stared out at the view in awe. As you imagined, the hill was dotted with the glowing firefly light. It is perfectly reflected. It perfectly reflected the memories of childhood held closely in your mind. Cove sighed contentedly, seeing them across the hill, weaving in and around the blades of grass and the stars above. Cove cocked his head to the side before his expression twisted playfully when he met your eye. You were about to prod him about what was on his mind when he took up running. I bet I'll catch one first. You owe it someone, laughed and watched him try to catch one instead, cheered him on. It's on. Kicking up a bit of dirt and leaves, you bolted in the opposite direction after a few fireflies had captured your attention. The first one that flitted into your range, you dove for it. Did you get one? It escaped between your fingers, but that didn't dim a second of your fun. You shook your head, trying to find your next target. The next one. I can feel it. Unless you're feeling my future victory. Out of the corner of your eye, you watch Cove get spun nearly around, following one that was staying just out of reach. Chuckling, you crouched down low, searching the air. The pursuit of fireflies continued until a handful had been caught. Cove crossed over to you with a bright grin that could rival every twinkling bug and star around you. Caught between both his hands, Cove carefully held the firefly. The corners of his mouth twisted before a few giggles escaped him, and you knew that feeling well, the way the firefly would buzz around, tickling the palms of your hands. Cove's eyelids fluttered open, meeting yours. He watched you with a complicated mix of emotions, heavy with the weight of 15 years of history, of memories. It's really a relief that I got to see. the fireflies. This trip wouldn't have felt complete without it. It's alright. The light breeze tousled your hair. Content, you were grateful that Cobb made the suggestion. If we hadn't done this, it would have felt like something was missing once I got home. Me too. Taking a deep breath, Cobb held your eye. He glanced. He appeared to be conflicted about what he wanted to say next, and you waited for him to make his choice. It's a strange not to live here anymore. Most of my life, neither of us were ever really away from Sunset Bird. Well, unless one of us went on a trip somewhere. Or when both our families took trips together. Remember that? He chuckled, losing himself to fun reminiscing. You couldn't help but match his grin. I liked that road trip one a lot, though I don't think we all could squish into that RV again. We're way too big. Laughing, Cobb shook his head. His brow creased the longer he sat with the thoughts spinning in his brain. Those visits back then with my mom, I remember what a big deal they felt like then. To be away from here without anyone else coming. For a whole few weeks. Oh, how little I knew. Hey, what did you used to tell your mom about me when you were on those trips to see her? Thrown a little off kilter, Cobb hadn't been expecting that question at all. Both of his eyebrows raised, and a part of you wondered if you had somehow spoken gibberish instead. Honestly, I've been wondering about it since I was 13. Kira always kept the details to herself, and you never said a word either. Well, Cobb couldn't meet your stare for a second longer. Bashfully, he turned away, and his voice grew smaller. Mostly, I just told her about the times we'd hang out, but I know I was pretty enthusiastic when I was, because you are someone really special to me. And they admitted that much to my mom. Not sure if I used the word crush exactly, but she knew that you were in the highlight of my young life. And look at that, you still are. You delivered that final thought earnestly enough that you stopped breathing altogether. Cobb beamed at you, pleased with his confession. Thank you. You're welcome. And thank you for being my favorite story. Finally, Cobb parted his hands and released the firefly back into the hill. It flew up around his face before darting away into the sky. But your gaze was fixated on him. There was a touch of wistfulness in his features as he watched the bug disappear into the night. It wasn't until Cobb turned his attention back to you that his demeanor warmed. Okay, I'm ready to go now. Do we have to go? You asked Cobb with pleading eyes. The smile on his face fell while he rubbed at his arm. I mean, our parents would probably be thrilled if we stuck around, but we really shouldn't. You're right. No, you're right, but still, it's hard. And I'm just not ready yet. The corners of Cobb's mouth pulled into a frown. He watched your shoulders slump with a sympathetic look.
Don't worry about it.
It's okay, Corey. We've done a pretty good job bookending things, I think. We've enjoyed this trip the best we could, right? You rubbed at his arm awkwardly, nervously waiting for your response. You sighed. Well, you do have a point, but it's so sad that we're leaving. I don't want today to end either. We can always come back whenever you want to. We can try to make it work, I promise. Cobb stood tall and studied you as his reassuring words sank in. You knew he meant every word, and you believed him wholeheartedly. Okay. With Cobb right there along with you, you made your way down the hill, with the same stars above trailing the way. Your last night in Sunset Bird was closing out. You were lost deep within a dream, adrift in the current of your unconscious mind. Cobb was with you even there, expressions strong as your mind flitted from scene to scene, the logic of the conscious world melting around you. Something jolted you from your slumber, the visions you'd constructed slipping away even as you scrambled to catch them. It had been a good dream. You opened your eyes to an unlit, unfamiliar ceiling. Darkness permeated the room so thoroughly that you were sure it was still the middle of the night. As your eyes adjusted to what little light there was to catch onto, a smiling face ghosted itself right above you. There he was.
Corey!
Good morning, Corey. The green was bright enough to make it seem like maybe the sun had risen after all. morning. Whoa, it's my dream come true, you said sarcastically. It's my dream come true, you could. What have you got up your sleeve? Please stop being a morning person. You simply could not cope with this much energy radiating off him right now. Cove laughed at your response. Alright, okay. You groaned as grumpily as you could manage. Words were hard, especially then. Noises were easy and to the point. Cove laughed at your response. Okay. Oh, it's my dream come true. Naturally, you weren't surprised to see him, but that didn't stop you from enjoying it every time. His expression softened at your voice, the tender affection in his gaze obvious despite the dim space. You pulled the covers over your head. It was too early for this. With any luck, Cove would take your not so subtle hint to try again after you had gotten a decent night's rest. But you were without luck, as Cove made no attempt to leave you be. Would you prefer me to wake you up by tapping on the window? Yes. Cove simply smirked, amused by his own wit.
Come on.
I mean, you really should have expected this was gonna happen. Fine, shame on me because you got me more than once. Way more than once. Right, you woke me up for something. Give me your pitch and we'll see if it's better than sleeping. Well, this is our last day here. Everyone must still be asleep, but if we get up now, we can at least see the neighborhood. Do you want to? I doubt I have a choice here. Cove only shrugged. Is that a yes or what? He made a show of considering his offer. It is.
All right.
Great. Then he held out one of those hands to help you get up, too. You held out both arms, wordlessly asking him to lift you up. He complied, crouching down to scoop you up before gently setting you down again. Before you could head out, you and Cove both needed to get dressed. You did so quietly. The strangeness of the hour meant that your body seemed less coordinated than usual. Each article of clothing was a new puzzle, but you managed it. The two of you were eventually ready to head out into the world. Dawn still hadn't broken when you left the hotel, yet it was easy enough to get a ride down into Sunset Bird. The journey was peaceful. You might have expected sleep to attempt to claim you once again, with the sky still so dark, but Cove's excited energy was infectious. Morning was finally starting to come over Sunset Bird as you arrived, almost like the sun itself wanted to be there to welcome you. Cove turned towards you, his eyes sparkling with anticipation. One more beach summer trip? You were sorely tempted to tease him, but his eager expression was just too pure. Sure, one more. You could have taken your time getting there, dawdling under the morning sun, or you could have taken the short walk at a regular pace. And both of those would have been just right for some other occasion, but this time, without either of you saying a word, you and Cove set off sprinting. The two of you would tore gleefully down the street towards the beach, as excited and as ungainly as the kids you'd once been. You were laughing with joy, and at the absurdity of it all. Being here at the break of dawn, with the boyhood you once discovered on the nearby hill, who never completely grew up. As it was still early, you did your best to keep the noise down. To the side of you, you saw Cove covering his mouth to stifle his own giggles, similarly aware of the people sleeping in the condos around you. You thought of what that mean old, not grandparents would have said if they could see you now. All you could do was continue running and stumbling down towards the beach, away from the residences and their sleeping occupants. It was only a few minutes before you arrived at the expansive ocean shore. Cove kicked off his shoes and strode right into the water, not stopping until his face was entirely submerged, and the waves tickled his ankles. Alright, let's go. After slipping your shoes off, you let the sea flow over you. It was cool against your skin, but not as cold as when the wave pulled back and your wet feet were exposed to the air again. The two of you stood there, watching as the sun continued its ascent over the horizon. Silence fell between you until finally dawn had fully broken. Even then, Ko spoke in a whisper.
Wow.
I can't believe it's over. Are we already at this point? Sounding like a kid again. Good enough, shrug. I can't either. A ghost of a smile crept over Ko's face, like the sun peeking out between the cloud and an overcast. The clouds on an overcast sky. Day. Goddamn. Ko reached out and enveloped your hand in his, pressing your palms together tightly. The silence returned, just for a second. I'm glad we came this morning, and that we came on this whole visit back.
I'm so glad.
But more than anything, I'm glad for ending up in this town in the first place, where I got to grow up with a really nice neighbor. I wouldn't have wanted any other life. I feel the same way, Space Cadet. Ko looked over at you, out of the corner of his eyes, not turning his face away from the sea. His expression was full of affection, from the gentle curve of his smile to his clear, contented brow. It was a stark contrast to the tears rolling down his cheeks.
I love you.
Love you. And I love you too. You counted yourself lucky, even though you were leaving now. This place had gifted you with so much that you'd carry with you wherever life might take you. The memories you'd made, the lessons you'd learned, the people you'd built a relationship with. You'd keep those pieces of your life in Sunset Bird forever. You stood with Ko, silently watching as bright rays swept away the last of the night's shadow, until the day truly arrived. Your spirits were high as the sun rose ever higher in the sky. The two of you had found yourself meandering back to the neighborhood. Streets on sandy feet, strolling down the path just as you'd done thousands of times before. This was where it all started. You were compelled to look at the exact spot you'd first encountered Mr. Holden, sitting dejected on the curb. He wasn't like that anymore. Still, you couldn't forget the day it began. Just as you couldn't believe what an adventure it led to. Things had never been the same since that moment, and you couldn't be happier for it. Your mental lingering on that meeting had turned physical, causing you to stop in your tracks. It was only when you heard Ko's voice calling your name that you remembered when you were, and realized what you'd done. What a present it was. A shining sun, clear sky, and Ko with James Holden by your side. All the most natural things in the world. So what's the next step? Watch Ko expectantly, waiting for him to guide you forward from here. There was a crinkle around his eyes as he laughed. It's up to you now. Ooh, exciting. You're giving me too much power. You're giving me too much power, and you're worried about it going to my head? Ko smirked, shaking his head.
It's okay.
Don't worry about it. I'm listening, so go ahead. His eyes met yours, holding your gaze. I believe in you, Corey. No matter how much time might pass, there were some things that you could count on to be constant. Ko, your family, his family, and all your other loved ones being there for you when you needed. It was one of those things since the beginning and for always, knowing they were there, and you will never be truly alone, made the future look all the much brighter. Private to make out, walking through town, something to eat, under the street. I just want to wait and see what happens. The world was full of possibilities, and even in this little town, you never knew what you might stumble across, even in the places you knew best, if you kept your eyes and mind open. Ko nodded, his gaze shifting from you to roam across the little place that you both called home. There's a lot that's still out there in the world, a lot of different ways things could go in the future. For this, I think that'd be the perfect choice. You beam, his approval of your suggestion lifting your spirits ever higher. Your days growing up in Sunset Bird had been so wonderful. Even the prospect of leaving again made your chest ache, yet you weren't going to let this stop you. it would be hard, but you knew that it would still be there, waiting, whenever you wanted to return. Facing Kobe would be by your side through it all. You knew that one day you'd look on these moments now, just as you fondly reminisced about your childhood growing up here. Each happy moment you experienced became only a memory of what you used to be. But that was what life was, and it was okay. As it was from the beginning, and continuing that way for always, life took another step forward. Thank you for beginning a life here, now living Sunset Bird. Man, that was fun. But where was the wedding DLC? The end. Yeah, so cool, but where was the wedding DLC? Thank you so much for... okay, so here's a wedding DLC. Because you're already married to Kobe in this playthrough, you can choose to continue your story into the wedding planning events if you accept the framing that you were legally married before and are only having the actual wedding now. If you want to imagine that the wedding already happened when you got married before the start of the 4, these events won't make sense for your life. And you can always make a save here and come back if you want to return to the option later on. Yes, I want to play the wedding DLC. Welcome to the Kobe wedding DLC. Oh. Okay. How long have I been streaming? Nearly 3 hours. Okay, guys. I'm gonna call it for tonight. Because I have this feeling that this is gonna be pretty long and it's gonna take a while. As a result, I'm gonna leave this for the next stream. Alright, this was a fun stream, you guys. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. And I'll see you soon, okay? Next stream soon for sure. Good night.